it's supposed to feel.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, put your hand to the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to the mad light.
I wish that this, I don't know, I forget how I put the music, the audio mixer, I keep forgetting. Anyways, happy Friday. It feels like Saturday because it feels like Saturday. Yesterday I feel like it was a holiday because it was a holiday for someone, but not like a national holiday. I don't know where my little things are. Oh, there we go. And then yeah, today feels like a Saturday. And then yeah, even for my mom, she's like, I'm like, are you planning on washing tomorrow? And like clothes and laundry? And she's like, no, I don't wash on Sunday. I'm like, it's Saturday. And I'm trying to make this like not be, what is that? Anyways, I know probably no one's going to be here today. So if you're watching this on replay, drop a dolphin in the comments. I'm Arena. I said that a little faster. Tonight, I'm not going to talk that much about Blake Lively because I don't know that anything interesting really happened besides the subpoenas that were sent to Candace Owens and the Senor. I can't. How does he say his name? Um, and then Signer or something. I'm gonna pronounce it the Italian way, I guess. And who was the other person? Zach? I thought there was someone else. Anyways, so yeah, I'm surprised that maybe she did, but I didn't hear anything about it. I'm surprised that what's her name? Our quote unquote friend didn't make that list, Donna. Anyways, so tonight I actually have a lot to say about Russell Brand. Can't find my brush. I'm like doing this. And if it gets really rowdy out there, I'm going to go upstairs with my parakeets, but they should be fine. They were some, what do you call these, fireworks earlier, and they did not seem that phased, so they should be okay. That's why I'm here. Also because I would have brought them here and all that stuff, but it's really cold. Anyways, so happy Friday. Russell Brand and on Candace Owens, it was really hard. I've not been able to get past like I think I got to like 25 minutes. It was really tough. I have notes. And then Zohran, I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce his name. I know everyone's like Zoran. Maybe that's how you. I don't know. I keep gravitating towards Zohran. But yeah, talk about him. And what else do I have on the list today? That's kind of it. And then some general news and ballerina. I forgot that I saw that. It feels like this week has been multiple weeks in one. It feels like I saw ballerina like a week ago and it was only Tuesday, but it honestly does not feel like today is like the same Friday of this whole week. This week has been really long in a good way in the end. Yeah, I finished my Zumba training. I'm certified, whatever that means, for like 6 months or something like that. And my Zumba teacher, one of them this morning, she said, okay, great. Now, you can come teach like one song or three songs if you want. I'm like, let's start with one. and I'm not ready. It's so, I love choreography, and I kind of feel like I'm not going to be good at this just because I want to improvise all the time, especially with like salsa music. I just like start feeling the beat, and I think people are going to be like super lost if I do that. So I have to like stick to a script, and I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited at the same time. I actually got like a jolt of excitement after I finished that. I finished that on Wednesday, I think. And I was like, I don't know. I found it like really cool. And then what else is new? I can't breathe. I'm like, like I get that excitement, but I think it is I am super tired. The night before yesterday, I think I got like decent sleep. Yeah, because I ate cookies and milk. There's something to that. There's something to that. Hi P, welcome. Happy 4th. I said that earlier, by the way, to a McDonald's person, like the first window, the cashier, and she just was like, "Huh." I'm like, yeah, yeah. Probably a lot of people feel that way today. Um, and yeah, so I don't think it like really is reflective of what's going on right now, but it is kind of ironic. Um, but yeah, happy 4th. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so oh yeah, so then like the cookies and cream, especially if I don't eat sugar throughout the day. When I eat sugar, I go like right to sleep. I become very sleepy, which apparently that's not a good sign because it's like your blood sugar doing like bad things or whatever. But I'm like, I'll take it because it was like melatonin to people. It was like melatonin to me this week. So even like when I would wake up a little bit, I would just get like I would just fall right back to sleep, like literally almost fall. Like I was just like kind of super sleepy because of that. And then yesterday I didn't. I think I got a little bit. I only had a couple of cookies, so it wasn't that much. Yeah, me. I'm like backwards according to every cliche. Like cookies, like sugar makes me sleepy, and caffeine or coffee makes me sleepy. So that was a big one. So yeah, um, it's interesting. But yeah, yesterday I didn't eat anything. I was struggling to stay awake after I ate because I came back home like pretty late, and I was like, I hadn't eaten practically at all yesterday. I barely had breakfast. And then like lunch sort of at like 4 o'clock, and then or like 3:30, and then I came home. I think it was like 11 or something, or maybe midnight. And so I was like trying to stay awake just to get like a little bit of the digestion going. And then I was out, and I didn't think that I would wake up for Zumba this morning, but I did. And I was like on fire today on Zumba. So, yeah. I don't also get fireworks that much, like making your own fireworks. We have a friend who does fireworks and watched their show. Um, Not today, obviously. And that's cool, you know, pretty professional show, cool. But like everyone just shooting off random fireworks on the street, I just don't get it. Which kind of takes me to the Candace Owens and Russell Brand of it all, where what there were realizations that I had of what bothers me with Russell, who I loved before. I think I don't know, he was like this before. Maybe I was like younger, so I could keep up with him. But one of the things is like just how he talks. But that's beside the point. But just this, the following of stuff, which is so ironic because they like pride themselves on being awakened, which is what I put on my thumbnail and all this stuff. And I'm like, you are not. What are you talking about? You are the same, an opposite side of the same coin. What are you talking about? Because no one's like, you are just so convinced of your point of view. Yeah, anyways. But first, ballerina. So, I actually liked this movie. I liked this movie. Maybe liked is a little too much. I wasn't like woo or moved or whatever, but I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I just am not into violence that much anymore. I don't find violence cool. I don't find okay, something was flashing. Hopefully the camera will stick. I don't find there was a lot of what people I think would say gore. I wouldn't say gore because it's just like people breaking limbs or be having limbs broken or whatever, being set on fire, stuff like that. And that was like so, and I called it that it was like better than Mission Impossible. However, whatever number Mission Impossible is on. And I stand by that. One of the things that I thought of when I was watching the movie, the moment that I was like, this is better than that movie, was when like the majority of the main fight was with the fire thrower, whatever you call it. I've only seen that in maybe one movie, and other than that, I've only seen it in video games. And so it was like really cool for me to see. So I'm like coming from that perspective, but it was really cool to see it like in a realistic setting. Didn't really. I was definitely was like more focused on like how are they doing this? You know, like how are they protecting their heads? Because I think they have. I remember watching like the Only Murders in the Building, and this past season was it was okay. I like the first one or two seasons, however much, but they had the whole thing was about the stunt woman that um, did for whatever Brazo is his name or whatever stunts for him, and then like anyways, long story. So they had a scene where they kind of showed this. So I think they have like something on their heads that's like flesh colored to protect their heads, but still, props to people. I feel like truly stunned people are. I feel like whatever they're paid, they're underpaid, and they are heroes because it's not even about like we don't know them, we don't know their names, we don't see their faces because they're pretending to be the actor that's in the movie, but it's also just like doing that is crazy, like all the stuff that they do. So I was kind of focused on that, but um and I wasn't a fan of all the violence, but it was cool. I don't know. The other thing, this is I'm pretty sure that she was given sort of by this arms guy a Mustang to go. Maybe I'm wrong, but like to go to an ice village in like Switzerland or Germany. Well, I don't know, somewhere like this, like in the Alps. I don't know actually where, but it was like snowy. It was a snow village, and only ice. And I was like, there is no like what Mustang was that? I've been in a Mustang. My ex had a Mustang. Let me tell you, that is not an ice or snow car. Period. I remember like the first couple of months when we were dating and we're parked. And I remember like not like barely getting out of the like parking spot and just going down the street and sliding so many times. I'm a little exaggerating so many times, but it was like two or three times on that street, and maybe I remember it wrongly, but I know it is not a snow car. It is heavy and it is like wide. I've had like a Nissan Altima myself, which was like a heavy car and wide, so that's like going for it. But hi Angel, it's been a while. Welcome. Um, but yeah, I don't know if it's front wheel, rear wheel, maybe like if it's a four-wheel drive Mustang, maybe that's the. I just feel like why? There's so many cool cars. You do not need a Mustang. You do not need a Mustang. Yeah, I'm talking about Ballerina. I don't know if you've watched my Oh my gosh, I haven't posted the like standalone film reviews, but my other reviews, my other like what do you call this? Streams. I talked about Materialists and Karate. Did I? Yeah, Karate Kid, Mission Impossible, Life of Chuck. Have you seen Life of Chuck? I feel like that could be up your alley. That was a cool movie. Um, and then yeah, so now I'm talking about Ballerina. That's the one I saw this week. So yeah, yeah, the Mustang. It was just like a stupid choice to me. Yeah, I would highly recommend it based on like the content that I saw on your channel. I think that you would be into that. What's an old one? Are you talking Life of Chuck? Are you if you're thinking of Good Luck Chuck maybe? Life of Chuck is like a new movie. It's out in theaters. But I mean like this year new movie. But yeah, so Mustang, that was like probably the only thing that in the movie that I'm like, that is unrealistic. No. And also unnecessary. There are so many cool cars that he could have done that, replacement. Like there's just no point. Give her a Mustang like up to that point, although she didn't have a car up to that point. But like, yeah, on streets, I don't know. Anyways, it's not impossible. It's not impossible on the snow, but like going up on these like cliffs and anyways, what else about Ballerina? It was hard the way that it started. I missed the very few first minutes. But yeah, it was tough to see like the like point to shoes, the like her practicing point, and all the blood and all that. And that was also, I'm like, why are you like, you're going to slip on the blood, like duh, like it's slippery. Was that the point? I don't know. Like, couldn't you just like move next to it? I didn't understand that scene that very much. But anyways, but yeah, that was it was cool. It was cool. And she definitely looks Eastern European, but I guess she wasn't, and she's not in real life, but she looks like she could be Eastern European. Um in this movie at least. And yeah, it was like cool. It was cool. I liked it. I liked it. Even though not into violence and stuff, but I don't know. Decent movie. Decent movie. And I think they're dating, so that's kind of weird to say that this was a better movie than Mission Impossible. I heard that they're dating, so her and what's his name? Tom Cruise. Um Oh, yeah, I've never seen John Wick before, too. This is my last point to the movie, and then I'll get to the juicy parts. Um, so yeah, seeing Keanu Reeves, I wasn't impressed. I don't know if he does better when he's like standing alone in the movie, like has his own movie and whatever. Um, like through the John Wicks, I'll have to watch, but like again, I just felt maybe it's like old acting styles or something, because I felt kind of this similar way that I felt with Tom Cruise. Like I just didn't feel like he was really living in, like she was. She was like very much living in every emotion. She's really expressive. With him, it was just how he delivered the lines. I don't know. I don't know if that's just him or acting style or maybe this character. I missed so many movies and so many John Wicks, however many. So I don't know, but yeah, that was kind of weird. Um, but props to him for the ending. Oh my gosh, like hearing the artifici, the fireworks. Anyways, so yeah, Ballerina. I would kind of recommend it. Kind of recommend it. I'm also constantly surprised how many people, the only movie that was in theaters that I went during the day and did not have anyone in the theater with me, was Sinners. Every other movie, I've been surprised how many people of all ages are at the movies in the middle of the day, like noon to like 2 p.m. or so. I'm surprised. Good, but good for them. Good for us. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna start with. I'm gonna start with general news and Zohran. Oh shoot! I should have put up these things. The movie review. Let's keep that one. Sinners has been out for a while. It's good. Yeah, I saw it. I didn't like it that much. I don't know if it's just because I didn't understand the like what am I trying to say? The like symbolisms or things. I don't know. I thought it was okay and it was beautifully shot. It was like gorgeous cinematography wise, acting wise. It was great. I just felt like the biggest thing that I felt walking away from it was that they tried to squeeze too many storylines and topics and like messages in one. No, I don't really. I don't even know what vampire movies have been lately. I loved the show True Blood. Loved it. Um, and it was kind of like that, because it was like it wasn't weird vampire-y, yeah. I don't know. And then that was the other thing. Like, ironically, I expected more symbolism as far as like the music and the way that the trailer was setting the movie up. I don't feel like I got the same movie that they were setting up, which is, I guess, maybe not that like abnormal, but yeah. It was a specific grade in the vampire genre. Okay. Yeah. I don't how many like what other vampire movies have been? Cuz I remember there was like years ago one, was it with Tom Cruise or something? It was like in a suburb in the basement, something like that. I don't even remember. Which was like kind of interesting. I was like, "Oh, this is different. I like it." Um I don't think it was Tom Cruise, was it? I don't know. But yeah, Interview of a Vampire. Was that the one? Was it a remake? Because I know that's an old one. Blade, I guess, is kind of like a vampire movie. Um, Nosferatu, but let's not count that. My film friend loved Nosferatu. I was like, why? I thought it was the biggest waste of time. Oh, is it? Oh, interesting. Speaking of I feel like everything's kind of pointing in Russell and Candace here because they talk about superhero movies and stuff. I don't know. Why do you think? I did not think that. Let me change my aloe vera here. I burned myself trying to take out a spinach, pie thing. Oh boy. Oh gosh. I did not like this Nosferatu. It was just like very gratuitous to me, like with the sexual stuff and um um nothing. It was so slow. Nothing. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't watch it at the right time. I just felt like I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was not for me. But yeah. Anyways, okay, so you know what? I'm gonna talk about Russell and Candace topic next because um, I feel like that's where the energy is moving us to. Instead, like it feels if I start talking about Zoran or Zoran, however you want to pronounce his name, And other news, it feels like it's going against the grain, against the current. So let's talk about that. All right. Nope. There we go. And it's not general news. It's on Blake, right? Oh, Blake Lively. The only thing I have to say is what my thumbnail says. Content creators were subpoenaed. It is desperate. It is going to be very interesting for me to find out and learn and understand what being subpoenaed means, because these people are public figures and they're talking about it, because it's, crazy. I think also that it is absolutely insane to me that a subpoena for a case that is meant to present, to win the argument of something that happened before the lawsuit was filed, that there are subpoenas for things that are like all these, the documentary for, that Andy is doing for Popcorn Planet's channel. And oh my gosh, this is why like Americans don't get war, because like how it actually feels to, have bombs dropped on you, because they're like, oh, it's like fireworks. Anyways. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's going to backfire. But it's just like, I don't even understand the logic behind, oh, give me all of your contact information with everyone that you've talked to since, December after I filed. Like, what's the point in that? That is just so stupid. And yeah, it is. I think Omar was saying that she's probably the reason why she's not doing the victory lap is because now it's like the hard part. They're kind of realizing, or now maybe her lawyers told her like, okay, now we have to like actually, get into this and do the work, and to defend our lawsuit and stuff. So yeah, or maybe they thought like the subpoenas were like the victory lap. Could be also. Because was it 2 days before the people received the subpoenas that TMZ told them that they will receive a subpoena, and then they're talking about Wayfair and what's his name? No offense, I'm like struggling right now to like remember. I think it's the lack of oxygen from like my lack of breathing, which is also from the coffee, I think. But gosh, I can't believe Brian. Oh my gosh, my brain. I cannot believe I don't remember his name. Friedman. Wow. Wow. Like they're talking about Brian Friedman leaking things to the press, talking with the press, talking with like content creators, blah 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 blah, and leaking stuff or whatever. Who else would have told TMZ that they're having this subpoena? Because I believe they would be the only one. Blake's side would be the only one knowing. So, yeah, we'll see. And the Van Zandt thing is, happening also. But yeah, like nothing. It's more like setups and nothing like crazy happening besides to those content creators that were subpoenaed. So yeah, all right. Russell Brand and Candace Owens, technically. All right, I need to like take in some oxygen to go over this. Like I said at the beginning, this was hard to watch. It got me riled up for sure. Or one, when you're like just going crazy, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, am I the only one hearing this? Like, you're acting like what you're saying is normal or factual. What the heck? Anyways, so I'm gonna go down through my notes because I was like writing like crazy. So And then I only have this one bit because I could play so much from it, but this bit for some reason was like I need to actually show the thing. So I don't even remember when it is. So I'll figure it out. Let me check on my parakeets though in the meantime before I get into this, because it's really like a war zone out there. Again, for Americans, that they don't really realize that. They're actually pretty chill, and you definitely could hear it. So okay. All right. So first of all, I find him hard to follow when he talks. I find it hard to follow what he says. And it's also like setting off alarms. The main reason it's setting off alarms is because he starts talking about subject A and then ends up with subject B, C, whatever, maybe whatever, and then it ends up with subject X. And that is like something that he wants to, it's like his indoctrination, or like, is that the word? His messaging, his propaganda. I don't think it's called propaganda in this case, but like that's like what he really like is on his, like the chip on the shoulder, kind of thing. That's, I guess you could relate it to the first topic, but like he does it on purpose to get to that point. And so the virtual signaling, I think it's the virtual signaling thing, but I forget actually, there was that other term, I forget, but he starts with this topic that is pretty factual or like understandable, logical, etc. And then he presents this subject X as adjacent to it to make it seem like if you're on board with this, then you'll be on board with that. And so, like, I don't know, it's just very like red flags all the time when he talks now. But I was also saying it's not just that he's using certain words, certain like keywords, hashtag type of words, not just that he talks fast, not just that he talks in this type of calculated, dynamic, monotonous, one breath kind of way, because he's like monotonous, but he like puts in inflection, but it's almost like a robotic putting in inflection of just like emphasis on purpose. And people I saw in comments talking about how he doesn't do that, what I just did, say and all the filler words and things like that. I think because he is passionate about what he's saying, but I also feel like there could be like a rehearsal type of way about it. Like a script that is maybe not like, okay, I'm memorizing the script, but it's kind of like I think Blake Lively puts on purpose. Actually, I don't know, but I think she does that to come across as relatable and like, oh, I'm just like you, and like, oh, I'm so innocent. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm being sincere. I'm being honest. Because when you're saying and things and you're having breaks and you're thinking about it, you're thinking about it. You're not calculated. You're not saying a script. So by putting these things in, you sound like you're not on script, that you're just like genuine about what you're saying. So with him, I wonder what it is. But anyways, but good for him that he doesn't use filler words and he's so passionate if that is what it is. But he does have like this monotonous kind of dynamic to him. And just one breath, run on sentence most of the time. And I say run on sentence, maybe that's not the right term, but because he puts in, like you're asking him, like, why is this? I have a notebook that's purple next to me. Why is this notebook purple? And he will like take you on this journey that you end up with, like, safari has lions. I don't know. I don't know. I suck at improv, so that's the best I could do. But it's also that he combines multiple topics and ideas in one of those run-on sentences, almost like subliminal messaging. And that not just that it's hard to follow, um, what did I even say here? But it bothers me a lot. Like the messaging, the feel like I always have to credit the person that taught me. Because I was going to say dog whistling. So yeah, but I've said before where I got that, and I feel like weird now. Okay, anyways, so that's like my first thing, because it was so hard when I started. I was like, what is this? Also, her skirt bothers me, but that's just me. No. They were clearly going for casual, but like his outfit though, it's very him. But why? I don't know. The pants specifically, which they're more like pants British style, British word pants than like shorts. But those bother me so much, and especially with what's going on now, I feel like it's kind of disrespectful because it looks kind of sexualized. So I just feel like with what you're going through in the courts, Russell, maybe this is not the time to wear such an outfit. Anyways, um, hold on. Like my mom sent me. They went to the gas station. Like the parakeets. Anyways, okay, sorry. I'm going to like have my phone in case my parakeets are not okay. All right. All right. So then we get into topics and things that they say. I do like that he talks about this trend or whatever of legitimizing not liking one another when it's our duty to love. I feel like duty to love is maybe a little too much. But I like that. And then he also talks about how, oh no, sorry, she then says that we have a lot more in common than the extremist ends of either side. And she used to talk about, the other side, the left side, the right side, the this or that. And apparently, supposedly, she's lessened on that, which I don't hear that. I feel like she talks still very much about that. But they kind of gush over each other over that. How like, oh, like you're more universal about universal love and stuff. Then he says, Christ is on the move in our culture. And I said, stop using Jesus. Stop using Jesus. What is this? And I said also, how about you stay faithful to God instead of worshiping Jesus Christ? Like the whole like don't have, idols, fake idols or whatever, false idols. Um it seems like Catholics and everyone who's like Jesus this, Jesus that, Christ this, Christ that, and praise to Jesus, and like he talks so much more about Christ as if Christ was God. And I come from, I was born into Christian Orthodoxy, so we don't do that. We believe God is God and Jesus was his son, more like a prophet type of feeling to it rather than Jesus was God. But we do believe Jesus was God, but I don't know, whatever. I don't know. It makes sense to me. But God is God, and you pray to God, you don't pray to Jesus, and it's not interchangeable, but he definitely has it interchangeable. Whatever. People. I just feel like he's using Christ, God, whatever, for his purpose. I know sometimes people get so religious and so wrapped into it that that's all they can talk about, that the word Christ or God or whatever religious word like is just constantly on the tip of their tongue and constantly saying that. But because of how like he inserts it at the specific times he inserts Christ, I feel it comes across more like he's using it to signal people to like convert people, not even convert people, but yeah, some, I don't know, it just feels like he's using it. It's not coming across to me like just someone who just really loves Christ or God or whatever. Um, it's like everything goes back to that in a weird way to me, and like over the top way. So that's why I said stop using Jesus. I don't think he'll like that. I don't think God will like that. And then Candace says that she's been reading Hollywood Babylon in her book club, which she has a book club, and I kind of, what is this? I had not had any issues with my sinuses until I'm talking so much. But yeah, I wanted to do a book club, so I'm curious how she does it. But anyways, and it's this book that was banned in the 60s, then it came back without some excerpts taken or whatever from it. And it's about how Hollywood was built to be kind of like a religion and blah, 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 blah. I did find a little bit about how in the book she mentions that they talk about Hollywood used to call movie houses cathedrals, and the idols, movie stars, all this stuff. Um, but they take it, I don't know, they take it in a weird way. And she says she didn't say they, I say they, because I'm like, who are they? They want you to exist in the me, myself, the selfishness. And when you turn that off and you start to represent something truer to your audiences, suddenly the media turns on you. And she points to Russell that, he was loved, he was welcomed in Hollywood until he found Christ. And I said, no, 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 no. Maybe it's selective memory. Maybe I have selective memory. Maybe they have selective memory. And he kind of pointed out, actually, maybe this is the clip. He pointed out that it sounded, even he said, like, not quite exactly that way, because he found Christ and he started speaking about it the way that he's speaking now, just recently in the last couple of years. But even like further back, he like slowly started talking about it. It wasn't why he had a downfall or like this connection with Hollywood and all that stuff. I remember, like, I think it was in 2020 about COVID, and I was like, oh, what does he say about it? And I remember he wasn't really talking that much about religion. He was also always kind of into spirituality. But yeah, I don't remember it that way. I don't remember that he was unloved or whatever because he started speaking about the truth and Christ and stuff. I mean, come on. I find that so weird because, like, talking about Christianity and being Christian is like, I don't know. Am I the only one who like sees that not a conflict with American stuff? Isn't this country, always talking about abortion, whether it's good or bad, and gay rights, and um, even capital punishment and all that? Like, it's all like based on Christianity. So I find it so weird that she would even say this. Anyways, and then she, oh, sorry, I said, I said, I'm sorry, but I feel it's enlightened to not find Christ. Christ is not synonymous with spirituality. Religion is not synonymous with spirituality. And I'm curious what this book says, The Awakened Brain, because at least based on what my therapist said, who is a pastor or was a pastor, so keep that in mind. He said basically like being religious and being spiritual are not the same thing. And you see this now a lot with people that go to church. I've seen this in the Romanian community. People go to church and they are not spiritual. They just go through the motions and they think like, okay, cool, this is all I have to do. They don't like have it ingrained in them. And that's why like I was like, religion's not my thing, because I was connected more to the spirituality. And like now with the right side of politics and all this stuff, people left and right talking about, religious things, or like having, being like a true Christian or whatever, and not actually having or doing the values that they say that they have based on the religion that they say that they are. And so, yeah, so I think like spirituality is when you're really connected and um, you're kind and you're compassionate and you love, and that's like your number one and the only thing. And um, you feel it, you feel connected to everyone and everything around you, and you, it's just like it's in you. It's not about certain rules in a certain book and certain, like, no one really has to tell you how to be spiritual. Like, you feel it and you're connected to whatever that energy is. And spirituality, I feel, based on also what my therapist was kind of alluding to, and alluding to like finding in this book, I think, spirituality leads you to not feel alone that much, to be connected, to not feel that disconnection, to not feel depression, to have like a little bit of an armor to depression. This is what the book is. And again, yeah, to be kind to one another. You would not find a truly spiritual person do the things that are being done in politics right now. They would not vote for that big, beautiful bill. They would not, they would actually be more like Zoran. Um, at least like the little that I've seen of him. It just kind of oozes out that they're connected to other people. They are empathetic to other people. Meanwhile, religious people that are not spiritual, because there could be religious people that are spiritual, but those that are just religious, they just, like I said, go through the motions. They just use religious like keywords, and um, they kind of feel like they're virtuous by that, by doing that, and not, yeah, um, not actually living it. You know, it's more like just talk. And they need the Bible, or else they don't know what to do, kind of thing, you know. Who's someone was saying that, I don't know who was saying that. I don't remember what or who I was watching on YouTube, but someone was like saying how their father-in-law or uncle or some guy in their family told them that, oh, I know, it was a comedian, it was a Japanese comedian, I forget her name because I just found her on Instagram, but she was one of her like skit bits or whatever you call that. Was talking about how her, I think, father-in-law told her that like you need to read the Bible, because how else are you going to know, you know, not to do bad things. She's like, in that moment, she realized that he definitely needed to read the Bible, because he clearly does not, he cannot be trusted to know right and wrong without it. So it's kind of like that. Whereas like people that are spiritual, or just like just people, like, you know right and wrong, you know it. If nothing but because you're living in a society and you've learned so much being born into a society. But I almost want to say that you know it just instinctually too, but I don't know. Anyways, to people might say like, oh yeah, well, society is religion. I would say, I don't know, because there's so many religions, and yeah. Okay. And then I asked ChatGPT, so I don't know how exactly accurate this is, but I asked it, you know, what came first? Was it Russell being spiritual and talking about Christ, excuse me, or um, him being kind of outcasted? The timeline it gave me was around 2013. He started making messianic jokes, satire about spirituality, edgy comedy, and satire. In 2014 to 17, he got political and anti-capitalist. So he was more like an activist out of the mainstream favor. And then the spiritual recovery of 2017, beginning of sincere spiritual language, since ChatGPT. Let's not put words that don't need to be there. And Christian adjacent, and then 2023 is full Christian conversion. So, um, yeah, I remember like the anti-capitalist thing is what like he started doing, and he's like, I don't need this like media, blah blah blah. I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm going to, go for it and things. But I don't know. Let's see what he says here, because I wonder if this is where his response is.
Well, that's thank you. And in a sense, it's a flattering analysis, because I reckon that my exiling from that particular little citadel owes much to blunt economics. But I would say also that the scrutiny deployed in that book there seems, Candace, to me, absolutely 100% right. And there's nothing more appealing than being told that, yes, you're right, you are fantastic. Like a culture that will tell you that you're brilliant. Now, most people I know that have become entertainers, there are rare exceptions, have some grain in them of terrible, terrible self-doubt and terrible loathing. I mean, don't all of us as human beings?
Right.
I keep
Yeah, okay. Like, of course, like at the good moment commercial ad, whatever you call it.
Because understandably we are full of terrible loathing. I mean, in them of terrible, terrible self-doubt and terrible loathing. I mean, don't all of us as human beings, in
Right.
fact, have that? Because understandably we are fallen and we are broken and we can never be healed or whole alone, not without him, not without his sacrifice. Now, like when you
I'm sorry, it's just like a visceral reaction to that. Like, oh my gosh. No. No. The whole point is that from a Christian perspective, God is in you, God is in everything, God is everything, So, like, you are whole already. There is no, like, you need Him to be whole. Because if you are Christian and you believe in God, you already have God in you. Like, you are part of God, or God is part of you, or in a way, you are God by, like, you know, I guess that's more like spiritual Pocahontas type stuff. It's in, God is in everything. God is like the stuff between the atoms and things and whatever. So I guess maybe it's not the Christian thing, but I know Christians believe that God is in you. And I know Catholics for sure, because I went to a Catholic school, and the priest that I asked, like a few questions here and there, I remember him saying, and I remember some visiting priests also saying along the same things, like, for confession, like, you don't need to actually confess to a priest or anything, because God is already in your heart. He knows. He knows if you're, lying, if you're just performative, saying sorry or whatever. He knows if you're not. He knows you're repentant. What's the word? Repentant? You're like, I don't know, whatever. You're sorry before maybe you even realize, like, so that's, lucky for me too. And she talks about Gardasil later, and how, like, that's how she was lucky, because of that experience, she stopped believing in vaccines or whatever. And I guess I could say the same thing about religion. Because of my experience with the particular Catholic school that I went to, I kind of had maybe more of an awakened part of religion to me, and it was more on the spirituality sense, than, maybe what many other people have. And I know in Romania, religion was taught a lot more dry and by the book, pun intended. But yeah, like, no. So he says that my exiling from that particular little citadel or whatever owes much to blunt economics. I don't even know what that means. And I don't feel like I'm too stupid to understand him. I remember when I was little and I had a cousin. I mean, he's still alive, but like, I haven't talked to him in a very long time. But he always used these big fancy words, and he literally wouldn't point out if I didn't understand. He would make me feel like, oh, you're like inferior because you don't understand this word. And he also was, I think, 2 years older than me too. But yeah, I feel like Russell has kind of that energy to him. I don't think he would do that particularly. And I think he genuinely uses these words because he knows them and stuff like that. But it's just like, I just keep thinking, like, is he doing this to like kind of make you dizzy? Right? With that whole sentence too, I'm like, what is he saying? That the book is Candace in that way or whatever. That's what it sounded like he was saying. Like, what is he actually saying? And there is something, I don't think it was like narcissism, I think it was something else, where people like do that kind of subconsciously, kind of on purpose, where they just kind of say words that just kind of make you dizzy and you don't even know. You walk away and you're like, what did they actually say? Or wait, I felt that they said this, but you walk away and you remember like, wait, but they didn't actually say that, you know? So that's one thing. And then all of us as human beings, in fact, have that because understandably we are fallen, we are broken, we can never be healed or whole alone, not without him and his sacrifice. And I'm like, isn't that a convenient way to put it? And he talks later how like even religion, like everything can be used to control blah blah blah. I'm like, uh-huh. Why would you say this? And this I'm saying this also from reading Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is a Christian or was a Christian. He's passed away. But he was a Christian, but he was a lot more spiritual along that line. And from what I didn't read all of his books and everything, but from what I read, he would not agree with this. It's just like, I'll just read what I said, and then maybe I'll find my words better. But I said respectfully, not to him, but to God, basically. I believe in the entity many call God, the life force, etc., through everything, the energy that is within every single place of this universe and maybe beyond the universe, that we already have that. We are already whole. It's about discovering our wholeness. And I don't know, like when I hear things like we are fallen, we are broken, like you are so small and little. You are bad. You are forever a sinner. You are like just a terrible being. And the only reason that you are good is because of God. And you need to like sacrifice everything for this God. That's what I hear. And people might say, well, that's not what he's saying. I would argue that's what he's saying. I would argue that this subliminal or like whatever messaging that Russell has here is like, maybe it's just how he feels about himself. That's like, he really feels like this will help and save other people. But I also wonder, you know, even with that, like, is this like really how he feels? Or is it, you know, to convince other people of what he believes subconsciously? I think not necessarily consciously, that he's like orchestrating everything, you know, dot by dot, word for word. Yeah, I just have a very hard time with people saying words like this and phrases like this where they make people feel not enough and not whole and actually disconnected from the spiritual source, that whatever it is that people talk about, you know, depending on the religion that they are. All you have to truly do is commune with God in your heart. He is within us. That's what I learned. That's what I heard from, like I said, from the Catholic school I went to, various priests there. And that's what also made sense to me. That's what clicked to me. Yeah. And I understand that everyone believes it. I just, I mean, people are voting for this bill too. Not everyone believes in like healthcare for all. So, sorry, I guess that's a dig. Um, and then I said, but generally, I do agree with what Russell says. Besides these semantics, that I could argue might be quite important differences, quite important semantics. But when you are told you are already perfect with all the broken parts, this is sorry. He says this later. Yeah, he says it later.
You're in Hollywood and you're told, actually, no, there's nothing wrong with your infantile desires and your urges and your narcissism and your hedonism. They find ways of monitoring and maneuvering those ideas. But
Oh my gosh, don't care about your ads. Anyways, I'll just let this run and then just stop on a picture of them. But yeah, so when you're told that you're already perfect with all your so-called imperfections and broken parts, and that those parts are not actually broken, but they're welcomed and encouraged, and yeah, like do more of this, etc., etc. What does he say actually? It's
fact
like
is
hard
built
to like.
upon, as you said rightly, paganism, the idea of being sexually attractive.
This word paganism. It's just like stupid. Why do we need to? I don't. Whatever. Okay.
Like they're doing this to this day. I mean, I'm sort of struggling to. I caught a glimpse on my X feed, though I'm reluctant to look too much at any of these platforms because it seems that there is some sort of semi-conscious desire within it to turn you all into a porn mad denizen of a world of tension and fret. And it's just like the
Pot calling kettle what?
he is an act of violence, he is an act of sex. Nevertheless, I saw on my feed that on the cover of Rolling Stone is a young woman who I'm assuming is a pop star called Sabrina. Now, I don't know much about the culture anymore because, it rejects me, I reject it.
Mm-hmm. On a scale from 1 to 100 of how little I believe that he doesn't know who Sabrina Carpenter is and doesn't know anything about pop culture, I would say it's a 0. I know about Sabrina Carpenter, and I don't listen to the radio. I don't like the only YouTube that I watch are, my little things. And I knew before It's Keisha talked about her. Um, I don't. You have a channel that talks about politics, that talks about world stuff and pop culture, whatever. There's no way that you are in this bubble where you don't know who this person is because this person, Sabrina Carpenter, is that big right now. But to him, like, yeah, there are people in the world that don't know who she is, but I don't buy that. Anyways, I don't disagree though with when it comes with what he says about her, and I'll just leave it and I'll just talk. He's so weird. Yeah, yeah, he is. He comes across like a cult leader kind of vibe, where he's very convincing seemingly, or he talks that way. Oh my gosh, this hurts so much. But yeah, but he just like makes you dizzy and like, okay, cool, and I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I don't really disagree with this. I do feel, and I actually had this conversation yesterday, and I don't think it was hard for me to express. I don't have the words right now to express like my take on sexuality and why like this over sexualized stuff in the culture is over sexualized. Like um it's not about empowerment. It's not about empowerment. But anyways, so yeah, I don't disagree that it's not a great thing. I don't entirely agree with how he views it. He says something that's like really cool though. The potential that environments that casually invite us to objectify one another might be, whether subtly or majorly, contributing to the idea that we are all here to just take from one another, and that we in fact can fulfill one another. And then he goes into, but it's not only God, blah blah blah, and I'll get to that. But this part, what I liked about it is that he says the potential that environments that casually invite us to objectify one another do XYZ. I like that he, for once, didn't say this is it, this is like fact, this is truth, etc., etc. In that moment, I feel like I saw real Russell, in the sense of the Russell that got to where he is now, the one that explored new ideas, or like, wondered about things, was curious, and didn't have this like, this is law, this is fact, this is the truth, etc., etc. And I don't know. I like that. To me, that's like when you are intelligent and awakened and whatever you want to say, you talk like that, in my opinion. I might be wrong. You don't talk in facts. In fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson has a master class, and I didn't take it, but I saw the ad, and he basically states that. I forget how he put it exactly, but the more you know, the less you, or the more you realize you don't know that much. And it's a sign of intelligence to admit that and to know that, versus like, this is truth, this is fact, this is how it is, etc., etc. And I do think that Russell Brand is intelligent. I just think that he is very radical. I don't know if he's that way for, honestly, for the fame of it, because it is popular. You know, he found his niche, he found his people, and it's that adoration that he gets. I don't know. But I do think that he's intelligent. And I mean, intelligent people can have, you know, crazy opinions, but I really do think he's more curious than he presents himself to his audience. So I like that showed in this. And then he says, contributing to the idea that we are all here to take from one another, because, yeah, it makes sense. Like, if we are brought up to objectify people, we just say like, oh, like, that their body, their attention, their time, their et cetera is mine, or isn't mine. You know, it's this give and take. And then he says, in his understanding and slow growth, people can't fulfill you. Only God can fulfill you. If I'm not facing God first and foremost, I would look to them unconsciously to make me feel better, his wife and kids. I want my little children to cheer me up, or my wife to protect me from this world. But if, you know, there's God, then he's all good. Like, he doesn't use people. Except, aren't you in turn using God at that point? And again, I don't know if God would like that. The God that he talks about and Christians talk about. Hold on, I need to do this because this is crazy. When he said that, it just kind of dawned on me. I remember I had some, like, a kind of quasi family friend, and they were talking about church and how, like, many people talk about church as saving them from drinking, from, you know, doing whatever other substance, from overly indulging in that, from cheating, from mistreating their partners, from XYZ, whatever, fill it in. And I always thought, when I would hear that, like, isn't that just replacing? You're not actually healing yourself, which it sounds like maybe he doesn't understand that you can heal. He believes that you're just broken forever, and it's only like God just kind of fills in those cracks, but the cracks will always be there. I don't know. Um, but yeah, isn't that like you're just using God like you use substances or you use people or whatever? I say, here's the thing that I guess bothers me with people who were addicts that find church, who were sleeping around and cheating until they find church, anyone who was suffering in some way or another and then finds church and is suddenly saved and healed or like, a good person. And as long as they go to church and as long as they like read that book and they do what the book says, then they're safe, they're good people. And without that book and without God, without Christ, without going to church, they're not good people. To me, that just sounds bonkers, comes to mind as a word. I don't ever use that word, but that's what came. And so I said, aren't you just replacing the drug, the people, the whatever you use to fill in the hole in you, like the space in you that wasn't filled, with God as a result, or with just religious practice? Sometimes, you might not actually fill it with the spirituality part. So therefore, aren't you in turn using God like you use the substances, the people, the activities? I don't find that very respectful to God's existence or the God, like how people view God. So that's my take on it. I don't know. It. I will say that even though this was like triggering and stuff, watching it definitely conceptualized some of the things that I had swimming around in my head and I could never actually like put them into words. This was one of them. Because for years I've felt like there's something there. I could like understand it, but I couldn't verbalize it. I felt like somewhat I verbalized it now. But yeah, I'm like also getting back in touch with my spirituality through this, honestly. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I remember being connected. Who says this? I think it's still him that says the stories that a nation tells itself about itself from that nation's psyche and soul. Form, not from. Um, Also, I feel like that's a pretty good philosophy, observation, belief, hypothesis, or maybe even fact at this point. But yeah, like it's nurture versus nature, and it's the nurture of society. The stories that a society tells itself about itself create that society's reality, basically. Um, he says psyche and soul, but yeah, reality. So the actors that become the stars, who becomes stars, who doesn't become stars, the kind of stories that are told. Um, and yeah, and I said, stop with the word paganism. Again, it's just like, you don't need to use that word. Like, why? And then he says, I just realized I've not seen fireworks tonight. It feels weird. It does feel weird. Because I'm hearing them in the distance. Not that far distance. And he says the normalization of corn, but substitute the C. You can solve everything by pursuing your desires, by serving yourself. Um, and yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. I think this was a moment where he was saying things that I agree with and that I don't think are that radical. Um, yeah, when you get to Hollywood, it's kind of empty and vapid and shallow and awful. And he says, oh, so yeah, so this is where like, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I get that. I'm on board. And then he says this. Its cultural impact is ultimately malign. It's like the COVID jab vaccine. Looking back, did it do more harm than good? I was like, no, it did not do more harm than good. Rewriting history a little bit. And also, it's really hard to honestly say either way in a way because you don't know, you're not in a sliding door situation where you don't know what would have been without it and you don't know, you only know what was because of it. So in a way, like neither of us can say or attest to anything along those lines. But as someone, myself, as someone with My father, he is intensive care doctor and anesthesiologist in Romania, and so I know first, second hand, but sort of first hand, um, that as someone who is very spiritual, my dad is spiritual and so forth. He was very much for the vaccine. I remember asking him because I remember like he was someone who had what might be Russell like beliefs in terms of like he wasn't in the mainstream of things and he was more spiritual and more skeptical of things, and being not in the US, he um saw like he has very clear views of the manipulation that goes on in the US, and not very conspiracy like, but quite like proof with proof, you know. So I asked him on, on all of those accounts, like I asked him, if I should get the vaccine, and he said yes, absolutely. True, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if it's going to be, a bad idea or a good idea. But right now, with what he was seeing in the hospitals, like, and he had like uh, report, like a news report segment or whatever that I saw too that he sent, I think, or posted on Facebook or something. And he was talking about a patient, um, and yeah, like I believed him because he wasn't just like this doctor and doctrine or whatever, he was also out of the mainstream of medicine, he and spirituality and all that stuff. So um having that second first hand experience, I will say no, the COVID vaccine was not doing more harm than good. It did save a lot of people. Um, did it get, some people more sick or having complications to the amount of people that had it? Like, that is every vaccine, everything has a risk. And so we're getting that now because they started talking about vaccines. And this is where I change my thumbnail. I'm like, I am awakened. They are not awakened because it's like it goes off the track of critical thinking, and we're now in fantasy land, and not very good fantasy land, very damaging. I was saying, oh, and then to the COVID thing, I was saying, was COVID on purpose or an accident? Was it like set into the world because of political things, whatever? I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. People have their own theories one way or another. I don't think it matters that much when it comes to talking about vaccines, unless you're like really, I'm gonna be very blunt. If you're really that crazy to think that we were like chipped for some reason, like you don't. People who believe that, I guess like they make up a reason why that would even be necessary, but whatever. Anyways, I think, or like I believe more that it was maybe for profit or like something along those lines. I don't know, but yeah. Maybe to get us to this point, I don't know. But as far as the vaccine, I don't believe that did more harm than good. And again, like based on someone I trust, someone's opinion that I trust, my dad, who was a doctor. I mean, he is a doctor, and he saw it firsthand. And he was fighting with a journalist in Romania also, who was like doing this conspiracy theory stuff and this like, no, like the vaccines are not good. They're actually worse. They're or like it's all fake. The deaths that are being reported are not that much, and the people infected are not that much. And he's like, freaking no way. This is exactly. Maybe it's even underreported. Yeah. So I have my experience with just stupid stuff they say, and it continues because I also have my experience with this Gardasil vaccine. Not the vaccine itself, but like what she talks about. So, and not in her way, thankfully, because it seems like she had a seizure from the vaccine. which is interesting. I don't know. I find that like so fascinating. Seizures, like what happens? Like it's so, yeah, I don't know. Not saying that it wasn't because of the vaccine, because I'll get to it. Let me see if what was that? Oh, I said, and this is the issue I have with Russell, who says something logical and sound, then inserts a personal belief that is not factual, it's opinion, and as a result, coloring it as truth or fact or as logical and as sound just because he made it adjacent to that logical sound fact, potential fact kind of thing. Yeah, so there we go. All right, so Candace starts then talking about how she doesn't believe in vaccines. She leads with the phrase, everyone was rolling, during COVID, everyone was rolling up their sleeves like it was totally fine. I believe people were not like, oh, this is normal, yeah, whatever. I believe many people were concerned that got the vaccine. I thought it was the strangest thing I've ever seen. Was it? Was it? You need to get out more. It was a full global simulation. And this is where I was just like, screw this interview. When people are saying that they're enlightened, they're awakened, they see the truth, they see through the matrix, etc., 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 I do wonder if they're actually crazy, if they're actually like hallucinating, like they're actually and I like the Matrix, and to a certain extent I believe in it. I believe that it's possible, I'll say. I don't believe that it's factual. I think that it's possible. It could be. But yeah, I just also think like, the truth is also more simple, is always more simple than, whatever imagination can like take you. I forget what I was saying, but yeah, like, oh, the hallucinating, yeah, like, are you like, do you have, is that schizophrenia? I think of like the Beautiful Mind movie when I'm trying to say, so I don't know what he had, I forget, but I do think like, is there something in there that way with these people? Or are they even just saying it because they're adored by the public that adores them? So it's like, either they start to really believe it because like, oh, people like me saying this and it must be true, it's hitting a chord with people, and you start believing your own spiel. Is it because they really believe it, in which case I think to that extreme, calling like that a simulation is like, you are off reality. And I mean, they would say, yeah, I agree. But not in a good way. And yeah, it made me also think when I was little, at school, we would get vaccines, at the same time. A nurse would come or would be there. I don't even, yeah, we did have nurses in school. And it would just be scheduled, like on this day, we'll have a vaccine. So we'd all line up and we'd get the vaccine. So, like, what is she talking about? But I guess, like, maybe in the US, they didn't do that. So, okay. But vaccines have been around for a while. Thankfully, we had a bunch of stuff that was eradicated or like contained to like very, very small percentage because of them. So, all right, cool, cool. I said this again is the type of verbal cues, kind of brainwashing, to be honest, that they do, that these two do, you know, because they say a belief that they have, but they make it factual, and they make you feel bad if you don't believe it. They make you feel stupid if you don't see it the same way. And that to me is like one of those like red flags when it comes to like cult type stuff, to cult leaders, to people that are trying to brainwash or like manipulate or whatever, and control people. and it's, kind of like in psychology, you have things that happen in every single person. Everyone has symptoms of narcissism, but to actually have the narcissistic disorder, or to even be on that, side of things, it has to be like a collection of symptoms, and it has to be to a severity that is, severe. That was kind of redundant. So, like, we all do what they do, but to the point that they really kind of push it, and um they're here to, like, make a change in how you're thinking. Like, yeah, like when you're arguing with someone, even I do it, like, you will call people, or you will think people are stupid, or if they don't agree or whatever. Not often, though. That's the thing, like, it's not as often. It's, well, I mean, sometimes people do it often, I guess, and they don't do this. They just do it. It's because some people do that from a place of feeling out of control, like, not out of control, like to control people, but like they feel like they're not even able to control their existence, their life, their decisions, because other people are kind of telling them what to do, kind of thing. So it's like that hopelessness or whatever. So there's like different ways, but the way that they specifically do it is coming across to me as this. So I don't know. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. She said, it felt like I was watching a show. I was so removed from it because I was already very awakened to. And then she stops, and says that she's been anti-vax fully, and her kids are unvaccinated. And I said, again, using words like awakened to signal virtue when you're not in the right, my darling. And she says that she had this awakened part of vaccines when she was injured by a vaccine when she was 20. Now, she wasn't injured. She has a seizure. She had a seizure from this vaccine. That's not an injury. That's a symptom. That's a reaction to the vaccine. That's not an injury. An injury is like you hit yourself or on something, or like you break a foot or something. Seizures are not injuries. Things that come from, like, if you have like an aneurysm, or like, something changes in your brain because of this seizure, or you like fall down and you break something, or you injure like your body, that's an injury. So, and I only say that because it's like these words that are just like, they just say it, and it's like, really, again, it just feels like a cult. Like, just these words that are kind of taken out of context, and it drives me crazy right now. Anyways, so she had this vaccine when she was 20, and it's Gardasil. Gardasil is, in theory, it was created to prevent. Actually, I don't know if it was created. I feel like many things were created for other reasons, and they found, oh, this works. But I'm pretty sure that it was created specifically to prevent cervical cancer. So I remember, I'm actually older than she is, and I feel like I look younger in some ways, maybe because of how I feel about myself. I'm not as confident, and I'm not as polished. I don't know. But I just kind of got stuck on my chair. But she's 36 and I'm 39. So I got to the vaccine before she got to it. I don't know if it was because I feel like I've heard of it before going into college. Because I think it was like the thing to do. You get meningitis vaccines and you get Gardasil and stuff. And I didn't get either of them. I got the meningitis vaccine when I went to England for school, because I was like, okay, I'll be in another country, and I don't know, I'll like risk it. And it was like nothing. I got nothing from it. And meningitis either. But like, I think that was a bit like of a scare. It's like England, but anyways. So she got this vaccine. It is like a 3-part or 2-part, I think 3-part series. I think eventually I got 1 part as well. I didn't have any symptoms to it. But they did have me stay in there for like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something. So, but I remember when I was younger, and I remember, so this I feel like is more of a testament to her parents, to her upbringing, maybe to the doctor that she was seeing, but it sounds more like to the parents. And maybe this is like a Romanian way of thinking, because like you have your first 7 years at home of education, and that's where you're formed as a person in those 7 years by your parents. But in the US, there is a lot more, like you don't have much of a community of, like, if the parents are working, you don't often have grandparents to stay with you to teach you all this stuff. You know, in Romania, I feel like moms, still, when I was growing up, generally were like not, they had started working more, but it was like a little more focused on the kids, and you stayed with your grandparents and stuff. So maybe it's a testament to that, in my opinion. I feel like it is. But she talks about how, like, you just believe your doctor. Let me tell you, my mom did not let me get that vaccine. She said, under no circumstances I'm getting that vaccine, because the side effects and the potential side effects and reactions, and like, I think even like further down the line, the things that could come, like, because we were given a pamphlet, and so the things that were listed in there, she's like, no, this is too risky. The risk outweighs the benefits in that case. And my mom's not anti-vaccines by any means. By any means. She was the first one just like, I'm getting that COVID vaccine. And other, like, we've done vaccines. And I also, like, that was my first thought. And she also then says, wait, where was I? Yeah, so like the pamphlets, they gave you a pamphlet. If I wasn't, at the doctors being told, hey, get this vaccine, I also knew that I wasn't going to be sexually active, because I didn't want to before marriage, not for religious purposes. Um, it wasn't even before marriage, but before like a committed or like a true relationship. So I was like, I don't need it anyways. But at that time also, you kind of had a time limit, and then I guess like they stretched that time limit, like you can get it in your 30s or whatever. But yeah, I remember getting a pamphlet. They told you, they would tell you that there are risks. They would give you a pamphlet with those risks before, deciding. But at least, at the very least, they would say there are risks involved, there are side effects, potential side effects, there are potential reactions, either one of those terms or all of them. Doctors say that. So again, I don't know what doctor, maybe it was like college, nurse, or I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was just a doctor that wasn't doing that. There are those people. But I know that we got that, and even if we didn't, my mom would have done her research, would have asked questions, like, yeah. So, and maybe we come, which is kind of like interesting when I think about it, because I was going to say, maybe because we come from a country where trust in authority and stuff was not much, because we had a dictatorship before 1989. So my family and many Romanians have a huge distrust in government, in authority, in whatever, in each other, in everything. But not like this. It's so interesting. This is so, like, how people say toxic nowadays. But anyways, and so maybe it comes from that, which is, I say that it's ironic, or like it's funny, because what I've learned is that in the US, African American populations were kind of tested on with vaccines, and that's why there's a huge distrust for vaccines and even just medical attention in general in African American communities. So it's interesting that she's African American, and it's interesting that that didn't translate at the end of the day in the same way, because that's very likely why my mom is very cautious, and she does her research in whatever capacity. Now we have Google and all this stuff, but before any of the Googles and things. Like, she would ask questions of the doctors. I remember she basically forced my doctors to test me for vitamin D when they were trying to say that I have fibromyalgia, which is probably both correct. But um, she's like, she knew also from Romania, like, it could be vitamin D when you have like certain like pains and things. And sure enough, I had very low vitamin D, and the doctor was like, "Oh, okay." So that's why it's interesting that like she didn't have that same um, truth seeking along with the mistrust, if that's the case. She seemed like she didn't have mistrust to begin with. So yeah. Anyways, moving on. Um, oh, yeah. I said I'm awakened. And that is why I see through the Candace Owens and Russell Brands. This was like me just being fed up with listening to these two. As much as through Blake Lively, Donald Trump, and anyone else. And of course, there are people that I will take more at face value or I will trust more. Just like they trust Robert or Robbie or whatever Kennedy that they talk about later. That's when I'm like, no, I'm not even going to get into that. But even like people that I do trust, like I will not trust them blindly either. I don't know. I might not be as skeptical though, is what I'm saying. And I said being awakened is having critical thinking and learning, being curious, not taking knowledge and mixing it with imagination and calling it a day. And that's what I feel like they're doing. They're doing that in specific moments. Like, you could feel the energy change in how they speak and how they even like sit or like, stand or whatever. When they kind of what I said earlier, they have this chip on their shoulder and they have to like say their piece because it's like something that's like a trigger. There's a wound there that's not been healed, and so they need to like say it that way. So Candace continues saying that you just trust your doctor. You would never at that time, this was like in the 90s or early 2000s, not even 90s, early 2000s. You would never at that time, unless you had been raised without vaccines, think anything other than doctors as like their own kind of gods. Like, if a doctor says it, it must be true. BS, B freaking S. That is so not true. You did, but don't generalize it to something that you did. And I will say that that's why you need parents. And you don't always have parents, and you don't always have parents that are aware, but like that's why you have parents, because at least like in the way that I was brought up, like as a 20-year-old, you might not be formed enough to understand, to be cautious, to ask questions, to have critical thinking. Literally, critical thinking is like the thing that people say you get in college. That's what you learn basically. More than knowledge and stuff. It's like ideally that's what you take away from it. So if you don't have parents, you will probably have already matured to that level because you would have had to. You have to step up to protect yourself. Um, if you have parents and they're just not teaching you that, then I feel is when you're like kind of like gullible and just like going through life and just, yeah, give me this vaccine, blah 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 blah. Anyways, but that is not true. Like I just said, my mom was raised with vaccines, very much so. We all had the TB, the tuberculosis vaccine, because that's what you would do back then. We had like a bunch. She has some that she got because she traveled when she was little to like Brazil and things, and so yeah, she was raised with vaccines. It did not mean that she's not skeptical of doctors. Critical think. Now I'm realizing that critical thinking is probably also not genetic in the sense like in your genes, but genetic in the sense that like passed on through nurture, through like you learn it from your family. But yeah, you don't just trust your doctor. I have definitely taken it to the extreme a little bit more now, because because I was like you're telling me, like, things as simple as you're telling me that I need facial wash and cream, whatever, that doesn't have alcohol um, and fragrance and irritants. And then they would get like these samples, and they would give me these samples, and they would have alcohol and even fragrance to a certain degree. So I'm like, okay, that's not what, made me more skeptical of doctors. I was already, but like, things like that adding up over time, and me kind of doing my own research, and also like listening to my body with my stomach issues, like, oh, this is working, this is not working, and intuition and all this stuff, which intuition also comes from the more you know. The more you know, your subconscious processes that, and it's like, gives you out from all that data that it has. It gives you like, it could be this. um so yeah, so I wonder like that about these two too. Anyways, so yeah, and I also said, don't blame the vaccine. It's like saying guns don't kill people. That's the same kind of logic. Oh, the vaccine is the wrong thing. It's the thing that was bad. That's why I got the seizure. Which, I mean, yes, because some people have certain reactions to things. It isn't for everyone. Like everything, people have allergies to foods. You're going to say that, oh, you have this allergy, so everyone should stop eating this specific food because you have that allergy. That's like that. One, one. Yeah, and so I said, no, not freaking true about the doctor stuff. And then she also says that doctors are like, she didn't know, or you didn't know at that time that doctors were motivated by profits, by insurance, etc. And then it took me back to my experience. And again, like, I'm not saying that my experience is more generalized than her experience is more generalized. I'm just saying that she's making it sound like people just aren't awakened and she knows the truth. And that's what I'm challenging here, because that's not true. What she's saying is not a universal truth, and she's spinning it. And it's also probably she spun it to herself. Like, when you do have a reaction, you freak out, and then you go down the rabbit hole. People do this with dieting all the time. I have that around me all the time with my mom. She always thinks like, this is the thing, this is the golden thing for dieting or for health or whatever. But I said, like, I had my stomach issues, and at that, I mean, it should have been treated slightly different anyways. But in the sense of antacids, my doctor, which was a very average doctor, it was probably the same doctor that didn't think of doing a vitamin D test on me or whatever. I forget if it was that one or the one after that. But very average doctor, not crazy into like what is now like holistic or integrative medicine or any of this stuff. Just average doctor told me to my face that they would like to give me Nexium, but they can't because my insurance needs me to try these other two, I think it was two other drugs first, these two other antacids first, before they can give me the Nexium. They approve the Nexium. So BS on, I'm calling BS on what she was saying here too, that again, yes, you might have doctors that were not even thinking about that and wanted just the profits and all that stuff. But I would say not every doctor, not the majority of doctors were like that. They might have had their hands tied. And even with the vaccine or whatever, like medicine, vaccines, they can be proven later, like, oh, okay, on a larger scale, because they can only like test it, on so many people. When it goes to the larger scale, like, oh, okay, we found that it's actually bad. Like, I always think of the was it plutonium that people had in toothpaste or something back in the day, and it was just like common, and they realized then that, oh wait, this is actually really bad. Like, this is radiation, and radiation is not good. but at that time it was good. Or like cocaine and Coke, and Coca-Cola and stuff like that. Like, you live and you learn, but you cannot pretend like you don't live and learn. And this trial and error, ironically, that they speak about, Robert Kennedy, who is like so brave, who takes risks. Exactly. So you're literally saying things against your own self, because yes, you have to take risks, you have to live and learn, you have to try, and you have to like butt into that error when it is and what it is. And everything has a potential to be damaging. There are always like side effects to everything. And I think the analogy of, with vaccines and medicine and things is like, excuse me, just because you have an allergy to lettuce, I use like lettuce, but like let's say peanuts, because that's a common allergy in the US. Just because you have an allergy to peanuts doesn't mean that everyone should stop eating peanuts, because many people don't have that allergy and they never will, you know. So yeah, and then they started talking about Robert Kennedy and how like he's amazing, and I was like not even going to get into that. I'm very careful about what doctors tell me, and don't just trust, and almost died from the flu vaccine. Yo, I'm so sorry about that. I've never gotten the flu vaccine. That's a vaccine that I'm like, this is, it's not that it's BS, but unless you are um, really immunocompromised, elderly, or like infant or whatever, maybe like I don't even know it, like baby, I would imagine, um, because the flu is like very common. I don't really, and I say this not in their terms, but I'm using the same words. I don't really believe in the flu vaccine. Not that I don't believe in it. I think it's effective for some people, and they should get it. But um, yeah, I don't do flu vaccine. And honestly, part of it is because when I entered the workforce and people got the flu vaccine, and I was like, I don't know what this is like. I've been fine, so far in my life. Um, and they wouldn't get sick. They would not, because it's a live vaccine, I think, right? It just gives you um the just a smaller bit of the virus. So your body learns to fight it. So people, yeah, would so often get sick from the flu vaccine. So I was like, this is not worth it. I'm young, like I think I'll be okay if I do get the flu. I don't think I ever got the flu. That's maybe what I had actually in December. Maybe I had the flu. Um, but I'm sorry that happened. Was it because of the allergy? Because I know it has like allergens in it more than others, or maybe not more than others. But yeah, I feel like it has like what is that? Contraindications. If you like can't do shellfish or eggs or something. Um, Not the COVID, the regular vaccine. No, I can't take any live vaccines. I have only just been cleared to work on sets because I can't take vaccines. Yeah. Oh, do sets like require vaccination of certain things? I'm very curious about that. Um, like I know in hospitals, obviously they kind of require you. Like with the flu shot, you don't really have a choice, which I mean, I get it, but kind of sucks. Um, but yeah, I was excited about this vaccine, the COVID vaccine, because it wasn't a live one and because it just sounded really cool. Yeah, I also like science, so I'm not. Where is it? I'm not with these people. They did as part of the COVID thing, but we're done with all of that. Yeah. Um, I guess that's good. I don't know. That was like part of the whole Blake Lively thing, that like, oh, no COVID protocols, blah 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 blah. And then we find out that it was actually from Ryan's movie set that they got COVID. kind of on the verge of not being, of like, I can't wait for that all to be done. The whole Blake Lively. It's just so ridiculous. Oh, I think I've heard of that. Let me look that up. Wow, Google knew exactly what it is. Ooh, ouch. Yeah, it's often triggered by a viral or bacterial infection. So, yeah, maybe it had too much of the virus. And it sounds like kind of that. Like you can't take vaccines with the live virus in it. That's like really interesting. I think I heard of it, or maybe I just think I heard of it, but yeah, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, maybe that's what like. Well, she says seizure, but and I don't think Gardasil is. I guess it is a virus. I don't know. Maybe that's what she got too. Um, but yeah, I just feel like it's different to like I'm not getting it because it was bad for me and I can't get these vaccines or whatever. To like it's bad for everyone and they're like they are you know giving you these vaccines for like a nefarious purpose. Um, Although again that could be also something, but I in the whole world on the whole planet I don't think that's the case, but in some parts I think it's still happening or it was happening like pretty recently, so that's not great. um oh yeah, so then Russell talks about how um he didn't have an experience, so that's not why he doesn't believe in vaccines, but he's just overall not trusting of authority. And I said, interesting that he believes in this Kennedy guy and he believes in God. I mean, I don't know of any higher authority and blindly following a high authority than religion and God. Because, and I love they say, um, and this is after this, I kind of stopped listening to them. Candace says, lean into faith. That's the only thing that's real. And I was like, this is literally, it's the opposite. Literally is the opposite. Faith literally means that it's something that you don't know if it's real or not, but you believe in. It's literally not real. It's a belief. Having faith. But anyways, and then Russell talking about deeper truth in scripture, and I said which was literally written by man. And again, for someone who's like so anti-authority, I'm anti-authority, and that's why I don't do religion. I do, we're not anti-authority, but like I very much believe in authority and an authority type of structure in like filmmaking on sets, because otherwise it is chaos. It can go well, but 99% of the time I think it goes really bad. So I think there is a hierarchical structure in many cases. Businesses also the same thing. Someone has to lead the vision. But it doesn't mean that I don't believe in an autocracy either necessarily. Anyways, but I digress. But I have definitely a strong aversion or whatever to authority. And that is a big reason why I don't do religion. Because of that, I'm not going to believe something some people wrote in this book that is passed on that we don't even know if it's what they originally wrote to begin with, but we're just having faith that's what is printed to us and given to us. And then yeah, you're just like following this book. Like, talk about like, yeah, just blind authority, not critical thinking, not proven, not tangible, and yeah. So, yeah, and then the whole Kennedy thing too. It's like you don't trust authority, but you trust him. Okay, all right. It's horrible. It's realistic. Wouldn't wish it on my. Are you okay? Like, was it temporary and you're okay now? Or was it like permanent to some degree? Yeah, but you're not a non-vaxxer. Yeah, like things happen, unfortunately, really bad things. But I think I do find it interesting that there's so much extremism in the world today. Whichever side you're going into or whatever, to me, these two people are no different than the other extreme. To me, like any extreme is bad. Yeah. Still recovering, had to learn to walk again. I'm sorry. I wish you the best with that, though. I don't know if that sounds really weird to say. I don't know what people say to this, but yeah, I hope you get there to full recovery or as full as possible. Oh, man, yeah, that's so scary. That's really scary. But more reason for me to think about twice about the flu vaccine too. But see, this is like the thing. Like, I'll think about this, but like, yeah, just like you're saying, I'm not anti-vaccines just because I'll be more cautious. And I mean, I was cautious with the COVID too, especially because it was new. And even if you don't think in conspiracy theory ways, like it's like, what is going on? Is this, and also being a fairly new type of vaccine, the COVID one, because I got the RNA one. Um, but I also felt like upon research that I didn't do, my stepfather did, but talked about the research that how long it's been researched and trialed and tested and whatever, and their risks, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's not like as new as people were like saying that it was. Um, I'm almost there. It's all good. I'm happy for that. I'm glad. Yeah, so that's like Russell and Candace, and that was like I stopped at 25 minutes or whatever, and it's an hour and 41 minutes. Maybe I'll watch it more for Monday, but just couldn't do it. I want to read some of the comments though, because there's some funny comments. Um, one comment says, let me see if they're here. Yeah, this first comment. Sorry, hold on. How do I make it small? All right, something like that. Yeah. Also, I wrote a comment. The comment right under me, it says, "It's nice to see Candace completely accepting of who Russell is, even when he forgets to wear his pants and shoes." I don't know. I find that funny. Um, yeah, more of us need to be mature and love unconditionally like this. I don't know if it's unconditional love or just for the cameras, honestly. Like, what is she going to do? She wanted him to feel comfortable. She wanted him to open up and to be himself and to like get, whatever. I love to see a hippie love Jesus. God bless you both. Who cares? The message is sound. It's not sound, but good try. It's not a new look. Yeah. Like I said, it's so Russell. She balanced it out with the grandma look. Yeah. Um, Unlike some commenters, Candace sees past someone's clothes, apostrophe or Mr., Mrs., whatever you are, to hear their beautifully articulated speech and views. He is a true Christian. No, he's not. No, he's not. There's just something about a lot about his Christianism is so performative. So that is not a true Christian. Anyways, sorry. Just I'm trying to like allow myself to express more freely. So I didn't mean, disrespect by my gag reflex. I'm trying not to be as, like, I think Romanians would say constipated, like just like hold on and not be, expressive. The first time that I was like that and I was like, ooh, I like this arena, was watching Parasite, the movie, in theaters. I remember how, like, animated I became, and I was like, oh, this feels really comfortable. This feels really nice. You're just, like, expressing it. But yeah, he beautifully articulated something, but yeah, it was, I don't know. I've never seen him with a closed shirt on. Yeah. I don't mind that much. I don't know. But I don't mind it that much as like the pants that were not even pants. And, like, just, I don't know. He's the perfect illustration of a person walking the thin line between brilliant and insane. What is going on with my sinuses? Only now. Like, I talked for so long yesterday. I talk all the time. Only when I'm here I get like this. Yeah, this is he never uses word fillers like or like, and he is brilliantly articulate. The problem I have with being articulated or articulate or whatever is that what I understand let me search the definition of that. Because my understanding of being articulate is you don't not only do you not use filler words and you get your point across, but you kind of stick to one point. And when you're, like, suddenly going on these tangents that are more like about evoking emotion that are not really related to the topic and to the question and your answer, I don't see that necessarily as being articulate. Having or showing the ability to speak fluently or coherently. See, and that's, like, the point. Like, there's many times when I would argue against him speaking coherently. I don't think he speaks coherently all the time. Fluent, yeah, he definitely goes in and out, and yeah. But anyways, Russell is in his Tarzan phase. Loved that comment because it's so that. This was a great conversation. I guess I missed the impression, or I guess I didn't miss it, but it didn't leave an impression. Russell is like my 7-year-old son who is convinced he is able to dress himself and does not see the wardrobe malfunction. I like that too. Whether you love him or loathe him, Russell Brand's ability to articulate and connect ideas is actually genius. I would slightly disagree with that. I don't think it's genius. Maybe, like, evil genius. Russell Brand is the most eloquent speaker I have ever listened to. You've been deprived. Go listen to some more people. Not that he's not, but, like, he's not the only one or the most. He takes "Come as You Are" very, very seriously. I admire the fact that even though Russell talks 80% of the time, he stops in between and attentively listens to Candace with no interpretation. I agree with that. Justin Baldoni actually does that too. I do think that is maybe more on the rare side. I don't know. But yeah, I did notice that, especially in this interview, and like that the clip that I showed, I felt also had that where he even I think he disagreed with her. It was very confusing whether he agreed or disagreed. It sounded like he disagreed with her to a certain extent. But yeah, I like that even compared to her, like, he is in the moment. When she says something, he doesn't think, oh, this is what I want to say. But I think that's what happens when like he adds at the end like what he would want to say or get through by being on this platform. So he starts with like being very connected and responding, and then he adds like this stuff. I don't know, personal opinion here. I'm yet to hear a politician or intellectual this articulate, especially in leopard pajama shorts, which I think this is a good segue to Zohran, because I would say that he is articulate. And I think that that is why he is in the position that he is. There's a charisma to Zohran, and it's interesting because where is it? Is it general news? There you go. I actually don't know if I do have some things about him. Yeah. I only have videos, so
See that guy standing while I'm
excuse me. Ads already playing. Cool. Not cool. All right. So Zohran. Oh, before I get into that, so the big beautiful bill is being passed. I think it was passed in both the House and the Senate and the House again, or whatever. I don't even know. This is American education right here. I don't know the process, but I think it was passed in all the places. And I think I might be very wrong on this, but I think this means that we also get to vote on it in November. Is that a thing? I don't know. Anyways, honestly, with this bill and people saying that when it was passed by, I think, the House, the people that voted for it were chanting USA, USA in the House. I think it was the last one. And I think I actually said this. People chanting USA, USA as they vote for a bill that it's anti-USA and more like DSA-P, meaning disconnected states of America from the people. Because I do think that not everyone is against this bill, obviously, because this is a huge country and a lot of people are not educated on things that they should be. Myself included. I don't know everything that's going on and all the bills and all the things that are being passed and all the decisions that are being made on my behalf. I just feel like it is this one just feels disproportionately disconnected from the people that the representatives, the senators represent. And so, yeah, it seems like the same thing with Miami voting. Maybe I'll go there first. Miami voting for right here for delaying the November elections for next year, the city elections for next year, like supposedly many other cities do, to be in line with city and with state and federal elections and ballots, because that generates more voter turnout. On the surface, that sounds good, but I also wonder, because I've not dug into the research of it, but I just wonder if that's like a good, nice looking package wrap, but the package itself is stinky. Like it's a distraction, basically. Let me pull this up. So this is about Miami. Where was it?
What this all means, Terrell?
Postponement only affects elections for city officials, as ballots will still move forward this year.
How convenient, right? When we think about the fear that Trump might not be out of office after 4 years, but he will just extend his presidency. how convenient that this is not, the ballot isn't moving the issues as well, but only the election of people, of candidates. I feel like that's even more important to not be moved than the issues themselves. You're giving people an extra year. And so when people say, like, this is a test run for what could happen in the presidency, I don't disbelieve that. I don't think that's as crazy and as conspiratorial as it would have been maybe to me, like, even 2 years ago. So, yeah.
Nonetheless, this is a measure that came with much opposition.
Favor?
Aye.
No. Voters voted Thursday to postpone this year's November elections for candidates to next year. This means anyone not term limited will serve an extra year in office.
People have.
Which is so confusing. They say not termed limited will serve an extra year. But if they don't have a limit to their terms, what does that even mean?
I've actually been clamoring for this change for a very long time, and it's really all about voter participation.
Commissioner Damien.
Voters, or a lot of people, have actually been clamoring. They've been asking for this for a very long time. That's what this guy says over here. Yeah. I don't know that I believe that, because the reason I particularly don't believe that, and I feel like this is a huge red flag, is because they're not giving the voters a right to vote. So if a lot of people are asking for that, and you're just doing what the majority wants you to do, you should have no problem giving the vote to the people. Say, hey, vote for this. Should we postpone another year or not? And also, I don't feel like they can also rig that. Not rig that, but like, push for a certain messaging and do their advertisement of like why you should vote this way. So, they can also do that. But yeah. Anyways, that's all I wanted to like show from that. And then I actually got into this conversation both yesterday, but it was about another country, but it was very much like this conversation. So, and then today with my mom, so I thought I should include a little tidbit of what I learned about Iran and the US. And oh my gosh, it's doing that again. Okay. Sorry. Let me pull my notes on that. So a while ago, I think I even mentioned that I had come across this post on Instagram that said that Iran was democratic before US butted in and basically put a dictator in the democratic place. Kind of true. It's a very, very succinct summary. Although I also have a short summary of what happened, so I don't know all that much more, but like I know a little bit. It gets not exactly. And it's all over oil. So I say this to my mom, that I came across this post, and really, I think I started, maybe I should have not started with this. I tell her that my friend who is Palestinian told me this. But really, she was telling me that as a response to my, reposting on my story of that original, person saying it on Instagram. And I was like, I even said in my repost, like, I haven't done the research on this, but this is an interesting theory or an interesting thing to look into. And she's like, yeah, look into that because that's true. So I didn't really get a chance until today, and I didn't really do too much of a deep dive. But yeah, basically, this is from ChatGPT. I'm going to give a disclaimer. This is ChatGPT's words. This is what ChatGPT gave me when I asked, like, what happened? Is this true? Pre-1951, but my mom also confirmed that this is what she had learned too. So I'm like, but you're contradicting. You're saying that it's not true what I just told you, but you know already about this. Anyways, okay. So before 1951, there was a monarchy with parliament. Iran was a constitutional monarchy since 1906 with a Shah, a king, and a parliament, the Majlis. I don't know. However, real power mostly stayed with the Shah until Mossadegh, I don't know how to pronounce his name, sorry, came to power. Between 1951 and 53, he was a democratically elected prime minister of Iran. He nationalized Iran's oil industry, and that kind of angered the US and Britain, who Britain had the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, later became BP, British Petroleum. And so they were like, we don't like this. And they did the CIA-led coup. I love how it phrases that way, but it's CIA and MI6 together. Operation Ajax, which I grew up on Ajax. Does anyone know here in the US about Ajax? Like to wash your, I think it was, I don't know, we were washing our dishes with it, but or the sink itself and stuff. I don't know if it was like an all-purpose cleaner or a dish cleaner or both. That I grew up with that. Anyways, really random. The operation funded mobs and media campaigns against Mossadegh, or whatever, bribed officials, and used propaganda, which is what like the conversation I had yesterday that was with another country, but basically that the U.S. does this all the time. And Mossadegh was arrested, and the Shah returned with full dictatorial power. But if he was a king, wouldn't it be not dictatorship, but is it autocracy when with royals? I don't know. And the Shah ruled as an autocrat, until 1979. And all of this, the coup, was because US and UK ended Iran's short-lived democratic moment in favor of oil access and Cold War strategy. Not because they're like, oh, the people need us. We just need peace in that. People need to like be better, blah, 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 blah. I think in the 90s, or like, not 90s, sorry, 2000s with 9/11 and stuff, I think that's when the marketing of these situations started going more into like, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts to help these people. I feel like before it was more like, if we don't do this, we're in trouble, you know? I don't know, maybe I don't know that much, but that's what it sounds like right now. So the main reason was oil nationalization, and because for decades, British controlled Iranian oil, taking most of the profits while giving Iran a small cut. And then Mossadegh was like, enough is enough, and took control of Iran's oil for Iran. And then Britain is like, you want to control your own oil? I don't think so. I think we should control it. And they did this. Yeah. Oh, and I guess before that, yeah, there you go. Before that, Britain put economic sanctions against Iran, blocked Iranian oil exports through a naval blockade, legal challenged at the World Court, and they lost. Britain lost at the World Court, and so they turned to the U.S. because they're like, we're in a disadvantage. We need to control these people's oil. So the Cold War was heating up in the early 1950s, so the U.S. was afraid that Iran might tilt toward the Soviet Union, which I feel like that's what they pushed them to. Even though Mossadegh wasn't a communist. But he was supported by the Tudeh party or something that was communist. That scared U.S. policymakers. Did it scare them? Oh, maybe. I don't know. U.S. logic: if Mossadegh falls and chaos erupts, the Soviets might step in. Better to install a stable pro-West leader. So there you go. as far as like they they did put someone that they felt was right, who also by the end of it turns out that Iran is working with the Soviet Union, aka Russia now, and it's funding terrorist groups and all this stuff. So like, what did you do, US, that was good? Nothing. Anyway, so yeah, there's a little kind of history lesson that I had for myself and wanted to share. All right, back to like better, beautiful, more beautiful things. I don't know, beautiful, because right now what I'm staring at is like a shirtless guy over food, and I don't think this is sanitation. I don't, you know. Um, but anyways, I guess I didn't know he was a rapper before. So Zohran, rapper turned politician. I said next, he's the next Bernie, except he has a lot more years to actually get, hopefully, to a place of power in politics. Um, However, because he's not born in the U.S., he'll never be able to be president, and that made me think that. And this is speaking from personal experience as someone who was born on the outside and more so about America, but my experience going back to Romania after coming here, I would go back there and I would try to say in fifth grade we would talk politics. Yes, I don't know why, how, but I remember having my opinions and realizing when someone was like, "What do you know? You don't have a right to have an opinion because you don't live here. You haven't been here." And that was being maybe a year out of the country. A year. Not like a decade, a year. But we were in fifth grade. What did we know? We were just saying stuff. But that made me think of how, because my first reaction to that was, or in my head, I thought, like, well, that's exactly why I know better in a way when it came to whatever I was talking about, because I have a different perspective. I went outside and back inside, and so I see it more clearly. I see more. I see it differently. I see from different angles. So that is exactly why you should listen to me. And I'm not saying that I had the answers, and I don't think that at that point I was feeling like I have the answers. But I'm saying like you should listen. I'm not saying you should like do what I'm saying. I said, but listen, be curious about it, because I've seen other things. I've seen other possibilities. My mind has expanded. And then when I came back to the US, I also realized about that, and I've noticed that, even when I learn languages, my mind expands to different perspectives and different logics and like logical thinking in different ways, because I have more data to put into work. So I thought it's unfortunate actually that only people born in that country can be presidents, at least in the US. Sorry, because hearing Zohran speak is very clearly proving the point that it's very valuable to have lived in other places. So maybe like born in the US but lived in other countries would, I guess, be ideal, because I do understand that if you open up to anyone, then because the world is not perfect right now, and there are many people that are not operating from love. I do understand that there is a high risk that if anyone can run for presidency, some bad agent runs for presidency, wins, whatever, and then, it's in trouble. The country's in trouble because we're just not there yet as society, world society, human society. But I think that we do need to consider someone as far as presidency in the future that has lived outside of the US, potentially in many different places, because it's invaluable. Another thing that I was talking yesterday about, like, you or the conversation where it led. Like, you experiencing these other perspectives, you realize that you realize what you take for granted as fact, that is not exactly fact. Like lifestyle, what is possible. Think of just even something simple as like healthcare. So many countries have free healthcare, healthcare provided by the government, and or funded by the government. So many countries have 4-week vacations at least. So many countries, and they're like thriving. We're talking about Spain and Germany and France and all these. I mean, France has so much time off, and they're thriving economies. These are not like some odd little country like Luxembourg or something. I don't know. Maybe Luxembourg is also like a big economy, but it's a tiny country. These are not like tiny little countries that are just whatevers. These are like big major countries. And they're thriving with all the vacation. So not having vacation and working until 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, starting at 8 a.m. or something, is not the only way, is it? So that's what I'm saying. Like, the more you experience, the more you see from how everyone else does it, the more you can bring back to your home and do better and make a better world. And that's what I hear in Zohran. And he's so exciting. He's so exciting. And I think, unlike Bernie, he's more digestible. Like Bernie, he was very passionate, but he was very bold, and he was very loud and kind of abrasive. Whereas Zohran is very calm, but clear and strong in his take on things. But yeah. And so, okay, so that's kind of where I started. So I wanted to learn more about this guy. And I started the other day by watching the Democratic mayoral debate. And it had all these people on it. I didn't even know this happened. I don't know. I mean, and why would I know? Because, I'm not in New York. And so cold. I'm so cold. I think I just need to put this thing on. Hold on. This long sleeve on. Oh boy. I am so sore. And my hips. My right hip. Yeah, my right hip is like suffering today. Feels like dislocated. And what it's like to be 39. And like I'm also like now like sore and tight from Zumba. Hold on. I don't know why. I feel like I never learned how other people learn to put clothing on and take clothing off. I know that sounds so weird, but I always like the way that I take my shirts off is like kind of like pulling, like taking a sleeve out at a time rather than like that. Maybe I should do the other way, because it's like I feel like it's more like helping flexibility and mobility. Anyways, this is like, hold on. Oh, it's like not fitting right. Okay, so I started watching that debate, and I didn't get very far because it was late, I think. But I started watching it, and basically right away, a lot of them were not confident. They were like bland. And Andrew Cuomo was one of them. He did not give confident vibes. He was not confident. He was pushy, different. He was pushy, not confident. The 2 or 3 answers that I saw him and heard him give to whatever questions or things that arose, what's his name? The other guy, Lander, I think, or something. He started talking about how he's part of this lawsuit against Cuomo or something for these workers that were underpaid, like street cleaners or something that were underpaid. And Andrew Cuomo said, well, illegal immigrants or whatever. And he's like, I didn't say they were illegal. So, but he's so against Trump, this Cuomo guy. He talks about like how like terrible and such a threat Trump is, but he did the same thing. Anyways, but he was just not confident. He was not answering the questions. He was just so weak, like, to be honest. He was not confident at all. And I was like, yeah, I think even without all the like the lawsuit stuff and the allegations, were they proven or something? I don't know. And all the stuff, I think he would just have lost because he just could not hold. He was not confident. He was not holding his answers, like or his presence. Like it was just like flailing. I don't know. Meanwhile, Zohran was like really confident, very calm, and like on beat. This is also something that Kamala, I feel like, struggled with, was that confidence. She was a little too like eager, kind of like, oh, I need to um like prove this point wrong, and say stuff. And she was like coming from that, which wasn't necessarily her fault, being that she was so last minute added. But maybe it was, maybe that's how she is. I don't know. But Zohran doesn't have that. He's very calm, cool, and collected, but he also speaks talk about articulate and coherent, and um but sincere too. He's not just like spitting scripts. And I'll show you some clips that kind of like add more proof to that. And then the slander guy was also like, he's an interesting one. He's a funny guy. I don't know, something about him is like really, I almost kind of want him also to be the mayor or something, because he seems like a very cool guy to have as a leader. He seems just really nice. And I actually didn't even know who he was when I saw on Instagram, probably because that's where I see everything like this, that he was escorted or like manhandled out of, I don't know what it was. Was it a speech or court or something? I forget, because they're kind of all blending in. So yeah, I think that was him. The other really cool thing that I learned was that he and Zohran, and I think this other guy, they cross promoted each other. And I was like, I need to see that more in politics. And the other thing I need to see more in politics is the way that Zohran is putting together these videos and the political campaign. It is almost kind of, in a way, going back to how political campaigns were before Trump, honestly. The Trump and Hillary campaign, I think, was the first one that was really deplorable. I think on both sides. It was focusing so much on villainizing the other person, and that was the only thing you got. It was, maybe I'm wrong, but I remember both sides were just having that same energy of inducing fear or like anger towards the other candidate. And it was like dirty, dirty politics, some might say. That's all politics. But yeah, it was like dirty campaigning. It wasn't really anything that was nutritious. It was really empty of nutrition. And and I said, how does the rest of the U.S. support New York to elect him? Because sign me up for that. I was watching this again on Instagram. I was it wasn't watching. Sorry, I was reading this meme or whatever, this post on Instagram saying that someone saying that like they're watching this mayor race for a city they don't live in so closely because they're that desperate for change and hope. And my stepfather said, well, they got change. That's what Trump was about. And I agree with that. A lot of the voters that voted for Trump, or maybe the voters that like tipped to the scale to his favor, they voted because they just were fed up and wanted change, and were fed up with the politics of it all, with the pony shows of politics. It was just kind of like the bad way, in my opinion. It was not for the people. It wasn't for, better living conditions and stuff like that. Anyways. All right. So this is the first video on here. That's what I was saying. Shirtless guy over food. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, he's a rapper. Okay.
Africa, who is running to be the Muslim rapper, former rapper,
Socialist Muslim Indian former rapper
who was
born
raised in
Africa.
Central Africa, who is running to be the next mayor of New York City. And with just a couple of weeks before the primary election,
I thought he was raised in South Africa, but born in where? I forget where. I don't know. Maybe it's the opposite.
polls are showing that it's not just possible, but it seems like there's a pretty good chance that he's going to win and become the next mayor of New York City. I've been championing. I've been supporting him for a while, and his name is Zoran Kwame Mamdani.
Also, Kwame, shout out to Love is Blind fans. Kwame.
His mom is a revered Indian filmmaker, and his dad is a Central African anthropologist.
And that's where I was like, no context, no contest. I love what I see. Like, I feel like he was raised by the right people, in the right places, in the right way.
Whose work I actually leaned very heavily on to make a video about Congo, which you should watch after this video. I don't know where I'll link it, but somewhere up there. But I'm assuming since you clicked this video, you probably already know at least a little bit about Zoran's platform. So let's cut to the chase and talk through the magic of these videos, including
today, halal inflation.
Halal inflation, or however he said it. And I said, I had my experience with a halal, what is it, cart, truck? I don't know. In end of 2014, like November or December of 2014, November 2014, when I defeatedly came back from the UK, and it was, I believe, $6 back then. Because this guy was like, oh, it was like $5, and then suddenly it's become $10. Like, yeah, I guess like $4. What's a dollar difference? But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was like $6. It also made me really sick, and I guess that's a thing, because the people that I was staying with, she said that, yeah, she also had that same experience. But they smell so good. Oh my gosh, when you're walking down New York or Queens, or I feel like I almost got it in Queens where I was staying with a friend. Oh my gosh, so good. It smells so good. So I'm not opposed to trying it again. I feel like it was just a bad experience, like just that particular truck or that particular day, or like it was just particular. I'm gonna try it again because it smells so good. Oh.
Does a plate of halal cost right now from this truck?
$10.
$10. Chicken over rice, lamb over rice, $10.
Okay, so if you live every day from like to some dickhead who has the permit, and there's no chance for you to get a permit directly from the source of rent, because in his halal Costco's. My solution for the high grocery prices is to bring in more Costco's. But he has no charisma, no riz. He looks like a type of guy who, if you see him in a bar, even if you're a dude, you're gonna cover your drink because you're creeped out by the guy.
I think that's a little harsh, but yeah, I really like there's so many videos like this, and I want to actually skip ahead to, I think, this one. Yeah. This is why I'm like, just doubling down on, like, we need more of this guy, of Zoran's. And this is what you can't fake.
If you don't mind, on my way, I'll be picking up my friend.
Sure, we can pick up your friend.
Great.
What's your name?
Muhammadu.
Where are you from?
Côte d'Ivoire.
How long have you been in New York then?
31 years going down.
That's a long time to be in New York City. Guess how old I am?
I don't know.
How old do I look?
I'll give you 44.
44?
Yes.
Brother, I'm 38.
That's my friend right there.
Oh, your friend's here?
Yes, sir.
Wait, what? Your friend is Zoran?
Yes.
That's the friend? What? You know
That's a friend. That's a brother.
Well, get in. We're going to IFTA.
We met in 2021. I worked with the New York Taxi Workers Alliance in the fight against the debt crisis. This is a crisis that started in the early 2000s when Mayor Bloomberg inflated the value of a medallion from $200,000 to $1 million to bridge a budget deficit.
This is what you cannot shortcut. Connection. Real connection. Someone who actually knows these people. And people say this all the time. Like, he's on the ground. He's meeting these people. He actually knows these people. But, like, I think my battery is going to, like, die. I don't know what's going on with this. But anyways, this is what you cannot shortcut. This is what you cannot fake. The connection. This is like really true politician or politics. This is where we need to go. Any politician, every politician, to actually work in the communities, but also connect with the communities. Have personal connection to these people's stories. I don't know. It's not in this one. I think I'll go back to not that. Is it? Where is it?
City of New York.
Not that. I don't know. Like, they were very, not this one either. They were already loaded, so I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, it's this one. So.
No, man, look. Keep on getting it, Playboy.
Next mayor, baby. That's the next mayor right there. We here, we lit. Ah, come on. You know, man. You say no. This is New York City.
So coming outside and seeing my people, seeing my food, hearing my music, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't able to do that as a born and bred New Yorker, bro. That breaks my heart.
Now we're like, what's going on? This is my community. I remember when you couldn't walk in these parks. Now look, I could come here, sit down and enjoy, but I'm being displaced because I can't afford to live here.
Yeah.
I gotta go learn how to swim so I can live in the water on the sea. Yeah, because this is what it is.
So listen, man, when you go to vote, rank my man #1. That's what he's running on. Affordability.
What's your name?
Mr. Vargas, Ariel, like the Little Mermaid.
Okay.
So you already halfway there for on the water.
I love that. Yeah, this was the other part. This is, again, what you cannot fake. He is very politician-y, like the way that he asks for this guy's name, and like he has that. But he also has that thing that one commenter was talking about Russell Brand, like he actually listens and he connects, and he's not just there like many, not all, like Senator Cory Booker, he also does this. Like politicians are politicians, but they're politicians that actually listen. And politicians, I would say that even Bernie Sanders is like more on the side of like just kind of speaking to you, or yeah. So yeah, he needs to definitely keep on doing this. I also said maybe I should be a politician, like him, not like all the old guys, because I love connecting and listening to people and just like being there present with them. And I also like creating change and, creating a better world. And I'm driven by that. I have to do that. I cannot just do a job, just like assemble phones or whatever. Like I need to have that like real tangible purpose to my job or to my career. Like it just needs to be there. So maybe I missed my calling. I almost did go into politics, but I remember in high school thinking like I want peace more than going into politics, and I don't think I can lie. And no matter who you are in politics, you have to maybe not lie, but play a certain game, and I cannot play games. And so yeah, that bubble was burst. But maybe not. I don't know. Anyways, The first video, yeah, they talk about halalflation or whatever. Eh, yeah, I hope this is how political races will be from now on, because the name of that video was something like that. And I said, I need some rapping, my politicians to do some rapping, some visual effects, some effective speech, not injecting fear into audiences, but, you know, having humor and kindness and love and bright light and apparently, like, where is the webcam? There I am. I'll just switch it here. Sorry. All right. Yeah, I need some like bright light actually, and ironically, his videos are not necessarily bright. They're more contrasty and a little darker. Either like the edit or just like raw footage. But yeah, I need that kindness. I need that like humor and that like passion and compassion with it too. So I do hope this is the future of political campaigning. The charisma I talked about. Oh yeah, like, and so some of the other candidates, there are two older guys besides Lander, who I don't think he's that old, and Cuomo. But there are these two other older guys, one that was mentioned there, and I felt like, I think there were two, maybe just one, but I felt like at least if there were two, one, if it was just one, the one was coming across very untrustworthy. Like, he gave me vibes of like, you could be voting for Trump. You could be voting for things that Trump would vote for, and the people that vote for him and like what he's about, or he's not really about anything, but you know what I mean. And so yeah, and then he would talk and start talking, and it was like very opposite of that, but I could not shake that vibe, and maybe because he was this old white dude. And then there were two other candidates that seemed like young. One was a lawyer, and one, I don't actually know what she was, but it was a woman. And the woman was like zero charisma, and I got fear from her. Like, I got the vibe that she was afraid to be there, which is unfortunately aligned with how many times women feel like it's a struggle for women to take up space. But I definitely was getting that. She was speaking not as like passionately and like taking up space. And the lawyer guy, he was confident, I guess, but like he was too polished almost, and I don't know. He was also kind of giving like, where are you going with your answers kind of vibes, and um yeah, I don't know. But so I think there is something to the charisma. I think charisma is very important. And it's why politicians that are politicians, why the stars, the movie stars are the movie stars. I think it's not just like by election and by, interest, but I think it's the charisma. You have to have that certain confidence and passion and stuff. Hi, yeah, Independence sort of day. I'm glad you enjoy those. I don't. I um I think it's because of when I was little, I would go to sleep with gunshots, and they sound very much like it. So I think that's why I don't enjoy fireworks and firecrackers. But I've gotten better in the last like 5 years, or actually 7 years or so. But they are pretty from afar for me. I did not watch them. I just have been on here. I chose to do this. But hi. I mean, I'm biased. I would say, like, tomorrow or whenever, like, watch the replay to this, because I kind of enjoyed the topics that I talked about. There's almost no Blake Lively in today's live, just so you know, just so you're prepared. It's mainly Russell Brand, Candace Owens stuff, and then now I'm talking about Zohran. And I also watched Ballerina. I didn't include that in my thumbnail and stuff, and I talk about that. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. And I actually enjoyed it more than Mission Impossible, I was saying. So, yeah. Oh, the one thing that I was saying, because I'm almost done. I'm almost at the end, but I was talking about this one particular video and stuff. There was a comment on one video on the Democratic mayoral debate. Sorry, in New York. That said, wait, are you in Florida? I don't think you're in Miami though. I forget which Maria is where, but yeah, because I also talked about the Miami election, just like without voters voting, just got moved to 2026. I wonder if that's going to stick, honestly, because yeah, but there's a comment as far as Andrew Cuomo in that video, not the Miami one, sorry, the Democratic mayoral debate. I don't know why that's so hard to pronounce. That says, "Do not rank Italian Diddy," referring to Andrew Cuomo, and I thought that was like interesting. Okay, I don't know if that's close to Miami, and but I'm guessing it doesn't impact you. But yeah. But have you heard about it? Because a lot of people are saying that's like a test run for this happening on the presidential level of like, oh, suddenly let's postpone the presidential elections and give Trump another year in the office and stuff like that. And if this works out and people don't question it, don't fight it, they let it go, people believe that, they'll be like, great, it works. So we'll see. As far as Zohran, Trump, I guess, said, and I guess I don't have the clip, but I watched a clip of him saying, we don't need a communist in this country, but if he does get elected, I'll be watching him closely. I'm like, okay, no, he's not a communist. He said he's a socialist. Not the same thing. Same direction, I guess, from what I hear, but not the same thing. And he has said nothing communist-like. Nothing communist-like. Coming from someone who, I was young, but I've definitely heard all the stories from my family and family friends about growing up in communism. Nothing along those lines. So it's interesting. It's just fear, injecting fear so you don't vote for him, because it's a threat to the control he has and his people have on the people that Trump has. So he's not going to say socialist, he's going to say communist, because communist sounds much worse, even though socialist is kind of a slur, but not too many people. And a lot of people are like, I think it's a great word. I think I like those ideals. And look at Sweden and look at all these other democratic socialist countries. And so, yeah, so I think it's very intentional that he used a different word. Yeah, you gotta instill fear based on lies and all that, because you're losing the grip on the American people, in New York at least. Oh, and then he speaks Spanish. Zohran speaks Spanish. And I said, I don't know if he actually speaks it or he learned it just for the speech, for the videos. Oh, where was it? I think it was in this first video. Yep.
This aspiring
oh my gosh.
just scored a 268 on her USMLE Step 2 exam.
I don't even know what that is.
sabe pronunciar. I guarantee he could get at least 10% of the vote.
Fíjense, nadie sabe pronunciar mi apellido. Es Mamdani, pero...
Es Mamdani, pero a cada rato me dicen Mumdari, Mona.
I mean, and this guy illustrates my point. And sorry for the, terrible graphics over here. Oh my gosh. Hold on. All right. But yeah, this guy perfectly illustrates the whole point that I have to make with that. And then he kind of goes and shows that, he doesn't know Spanish. Zohran.
Sorry. Construir 200,000 viviendas nuevas y permanentemente inquilino tiene. Y asegurarme.
And what's his name? Eric Hova Jim or whatever, the guy who has this YouTube channel, talks about how like this whole video, it was like one video. It starts in like daylight and ends at night because he did so many takes and went to so many places and all that stuff. And it maybe was even throughout other days, but it seems like it was in one day. And how much he spends correcting or like getting it right, pronouncing it right. And he definitely has an accent. I can even hear the accent, but he speaks really well. He does not speak like even this Eric Hovajim did, and like very, American, that you cannot understand the Spanish that they're speaking. like, and I think his accent comes from his other languages because it's a different accent, but still, like I said, I think many of us would like someone who doesn't have to quote unquote. Oh, sorry, the wrong thing. Even if it's not conversational and he just memorized the script, freaking good enough. And I know that I'm not technically, I'm Latin but not Latino. I'm not Hispanic. So I understand that might not sound like much coming from me. To me, it's not about like Spanish particular. I think because it's New York and Spanish is this, I think he shows in this video that it's like 50% or something. Yeah. 50% of non-English speakers or people that don't speak English in their household or something, 50% is Spanish. So, you better like speak to your audience and get that right and get it as right and as good as possible. And also like him to learn Chinese. That'd be like awesome. And I say that because I think he could do it. And that's like the wonderful and beautiful thing of someone who's so intelligent and educated. Not only educated as far as like going to school, but like he was in all these other places and these other countries he lived. He was born in these other countries. And so like, and the parents that he had, it's that kind of like education, and intelligence. But yeah, I'm saying freaking good enough because yes, it's like he speaks to his people that he's wanting to represent, but also because it shows to me, knowing that foreign language speaking, knowing other languages and learning other languages, especially in your 30s or whatever, is opening your mind not just to those people's experiences and those cultures, but your logic. Your brain suddenly has more data, and it expands its knowledge and how you use logic, how you solve problems and stuff like that. So yeah, and you're trying. You're at least freaking trying. Yeah. His accent is strong. Yeah. Yeah. But doesn't he seem like he has a different accent, like not an American accent? Anyways. The first one though, I thought it was like pretty good. Like definitely the accent, but like it was pretty good. Moving on to Cuomo, and Cuomo kept attacking this guy's experience level. He doesn't have experience. He's only used to managing 5 people. He's never managed more than 5 people, and suddenly he wants to go from 5 people to managing 3,000 or 300,000 people or whatever. Did he say 300,000? I don't know, something like crazy, or 30,000. I don't know. And I was like, I think this is also proving the point of what people don't want anymore. I don't want that experience level. I don't. And he actually says, this is the other video. He actually has the perfect response, but I said, yeah. I think many of us would like someone who doesn't have the quote unquote experience, which means that they've been bought or jaded, cynical. They're not about change. They're not about actual change. they're about like safe change, which actually I was thinking today about my previous job and how such a random thought, but how they I feel they kicked me out because I was what did they call those people, disruptor. I was like, yes, let's put in a better process. Let's like fidget with this process and like let's polish this one up and let's polish this thing up and let's like change and change for the better. But people did not like that. They were very conservative, and people are conservative in general here in where I live, unfortunately, which is why I don't fit in. But yeah, I mean, we all are conservative to a point. But no, thank you next. Thank you next. I don't want the experience if that means that you're bought or cynical, you're not going for actual change, you're not going for the betterment of the community. You're just wanting to like slightly tweak things, but keep it kind of the same, you know? Anyways, this is what he said. I think this is exactly where he talks.
Similar question. What would you say to New Yorkers concerned that your legislative record, however lengthy,
Sorry.
is not the same as running an organization of 300,000 employees?
Listen, I think New Yorkers want a mayor that is going to deliver results for them and to do it when it is difficult to achieve. I've passed over 60 bills that have become the law.
Pipori is a highly secure.
Gosh. Maybe, no, wait, this wasn't the video. Never mind. Hold on. What was it? Did I not have the video? Did I close the video out? Shoot, hold on. No, I think I just didn't start it at the right time, but here it is. Go in there, go. All right. Okay.
Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, the name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I. You should learn how to say it because we got to get it right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even listen to the whole thing, so my reaction was like real moment. But I mean, really, that was the only thing he needed to say. What he just said at the beginning, which I already forgot. I never had to resign in disgrace. The end. Mic drop right there. I mean, and then so many. I mean, people cheered. Yeah. So what does that experience get you? How valuable really is that experience? What does that experience say about you? I don't think that's a good experience to have. I don't think having experience is a good thing. People gain experience too, and I just feel like we just need people with less experience. Again, less bought, less cynical, less about the politics of politics, and more about the real issues, the real solutions, the real things. And not everyone that doesn't have experience is about that and all that stuff. But it is much more likely than people with experience. Because, and I don't think I actually mentioned, but at the beginning of this general news thing, what I was thinking was like, I wondered, like, is Trump blackmailing all the Republicans to vote for his bill or whatever? Because it doesn't really, there's a disconnect between how many people are against this bill and even have said that they would vote against it. And I feel like I heard, and I might have heard wrong, or I might have heard different pieces, that people who said they wouldn't vote for the bill voted for the bill. And maybe that's wrong. Again, I don't know. I'll have to look for Monday. But I think that's what's going on. Because I don't see people representing people. I see people voting really off. Even for Republicans, their voting is really off than like regular and usual. So is that what's happening? I don't know. Anyways, final video is about his eating with it. I mean, I also did catch this. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to get so much heat for this, flack, whatever it is that people get. Right wing attacking Mamdani for eating with his hands. This is from the Young Turks, for everyone who knows that. Arroz con loco. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm so sorry about this, like, terrible. Let me pull this all the way here. There we go. It's not perfect, but it's okay. Yeah, what is this? Arroz con loco. I can't speak. Whatever. It's late. Right wingers melt down over how Zohran Mamdani eats rice. Rice with crazy? What? Okay. Anyways, I didn't read that. I just listened to them. Nope. Wrong one.
Rejecting what we have developed as West. He is rejecting what we have developed as Western civilization.
People say, well, he's just being himself. He's so authentic. Okay, if a third worlder comes and starts defecating on the side of the street in Times Square, are we going to say, boy, he's being his true and authentic self?
I think, like, my mom might slightly agree with this guy as far as, like, yeah, eating with your hands. In Romania, definitely is disrespectful or, like, just bad. Looked down upon or frowned upon. But I think to jump from that to defecating on the streets, just like not the same thing. Why are you putting those two things together? It is not the same thing.
He's really being wonderful. No, we have
free. Look at how I eat my burrito with my fingers.
They actually talk about that specific one too. Like, how do you eat your burrito? We always felt out of not American enough because we eat pizza with our fork and knife. And then these people are like, oh, like, but Americans eat pizza with their hands, burritos with their hands. Like, what is this guy talking about, or that guy?
Hating on the side of the street right now?
No, I gotta jump in because I originally came from Turkey when I was 8 years old, and Turkey is not a developing country. Well, you could make arguments, but it's a top 20 economy. So, okay, so
I love when your Turkish pride comes out.
Yeah, okay, but my point is, it's not America, it's not Germany, Japan, etc. Okay.
Of course, commercials. I'm sorry, guys. I do need to get to pay for the commercials to be like bye-bye, but it's tough out here.
Germany, Japan, etc. Okay, no one would ever defecate in the streets, and it would be horrifying. Whereas in LA, New York, and San Francisco, I've seen feces all over the streets, right around the corner from my house.
We have standards.
We would
here in
never
the West.
tolerate it in the West.
We have standards here in the West.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen human feces on the sidewalk more in any other country than America.
Yeah.
So, and my guess is Charlie Kirk would be opposed to that as well.
That's exaggerating. That is not true. But as far as like the main, developed countries or whatever, I would throw in the ring, like, someone do the research on England, because they like to get drunk over there and their stuff. I remember like walking through the streets at night, and maybe I didn't find that particular issue, but there was definitely like so much like trash. By the morning it was gone, but like there was so many like bottles and things like on the ground and whatever every night kind of. Yeah. So I think that's a little exaggeration. I've heard like people I know talk about how like it smells a certain way, or they've seen people do these certain things, not pooping, but the other thing in New York and stuff. And I've been to New York so many times. I've never encountered that. I don't know if, and I've been in all hours, like through the night, during the day. So I don't, and all the places, all the like different, in Manhattan mainly. So yeah, I don't know, but I don't disbelieve this. I've heard of it from other people too. Um, it's interesting fun fact about Turkey, and I wonder if that's like from the Muslim side of things.
As well. But the idea that it doesn't happen here, but all those third worlders do it is hilarious.
Yeah.
But only matched by the hilarious comment by Chaffetz there on Fox News. He's like, next thing you know, he's gonna try to get us to eat burritos with our hands.
They're going to make you drink Starbucks every single day until you die.
That's a stupid comment about the Starbucks. I feel like my family does this. Like they say like, oh, this is like this, and like it has nothing. There's no relation to the like. They probably wouldn't have scored high on the SATs. Let me say that, because SATs, I remember they were all like, one of the big chunk of the SATs was like, purple potato is to potatoes as carrots are to, or as this is to carrots or whatever, because they are purple. Purple carrots exist. So yeah, anyway, so I got that, but many people don't. She doesn't seem like she gets that. But anyways, but yeah, like literally that's how you eat a burrito. There's no American person for sure that would eat a burrito not with their hands. I mean, the guy did say fingers technically, but like potato, pun intended, kind of. What does eating with his fingers or not have to do with anything? Yeah, I think what they're saying, well, I mean, they're trying to attack him in any kind of way culturally. They're calling him all the time like a terrorist, or like I don't know why I didn't include this whole Deborah Messing thing. Oh my gosh, what she said, it was just like the most ridiculous thing I've read in a very long time, or heard in a very long time. So they're trying to attack him, like put him down for anything, just making him look like, see, he's not like us. Don't vote for him because he's not like us. He's therefore he's bad. All right, let me pull this up. And like I said, in Romania too, people would frown upon, they would look down on someone who is eating with their hands like that. So they're trying to signal to those people. All right, so this Deborah Messing thing. So actor Deborah Messing wrote an Islamophobic comment on her Instagram in reference to New York City Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran. I wish that let me see. I actually never saw. I didn't click on it. Oh, so a 10 out of 10 evening last night. Tablet Mag or whatever had their Sinai Awards, in which I, along with 9 other extraordinary recipients, blah 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 blah. The Sinai Awards celebrates those who have shown bravery in speaking out on hot button issues, regardless of the consequences. Sounds like what's her name? Leslie Dobson. I met so many accomplished and fascinating people. I hit the jackpot at my table, sitting with name-dropping people. Alrighty. A fearless bad person, bad butt, who speaks truth to power. Thank you for a night to remember. Earrings, my own. Blah blah blah, whatever. Congratulations to future Mayor Mamdani. Maybe it's under this. Why do Muslims scare you so bad? Yeah. I don't know where that was coming from, but okay. I live among Muslims. I like less radical terrorist supporters, those who don't understand what happened on 7/10. Those who don't understand. So you like people who don't understand what happened on October 7th? This is where like people's comments fall. Like when you don't do grammar or like coherent thoughts, it's like you don't have a point. um Thoughts on illegal Israeli settlements and the tens of thousands of kids in Gaza. Sorrowful thoughts about BDS. Jewish communities are part of the state of Israel. Calls to boycott will not help. On October 7th, they massacred something whose residents are peace loving. What does that have to? You're not answering the question. Nothing to say about the thousands and thousands of innocent people Israel has also done this to. You are brainwashed to be an eternal victim, blah, blah, blah. Jewish New Yorkers love Mamdani too. Yeah. And then there are people, unfortunately, who commit stuff. So, what is this person? Who is this person? I'm sorry. I'm not laughing, obviously, at the comment and the word and the thought, but like, what are they talking about? What are they saying? Do they even know what they're fighting for or they're talking for, commenting for? What the heck? No comment on the United States wars in Afghanistan. What are they talking about? Anyways, okay. I'm trying to see what she replied to because she was replying to something on here. Have you considered going away? I'm turning into bush birds here. I'm not trying to steal their thunder, and lightning and everything. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. I don't know. But anyways, all right. So I'll just go straight to this. She said, I have nothing against socialism. Don't know where you got that from. I voted against M. I like how she says M. Which doesn't even make sense. She should have said Z, because usually you do that for first names, but whatever. Because he celebrated 9/11. I voted against M because he celebrated 9/11, to which she said, I was 9. How did I celebrate it? I was 9. Let that sink in. I love my country. My reasoning is not Islamophobia. But wait for it, because she probably needs a dictionary. I've chosen to live in the most beautifully diverse city in the world. The same people who did 9/11 did October 7th. Did they, though? I think you got that confused. It's not even like Iraq and Iran. I just said that. Iraq and Iran. It's not even that you can confuse the names because they both started with I's. It's like Palestine, Hamas, whatever. And I actually forgot who did 9/11. Man, I forget that that group's name. But yeah, it was not Hamas. Anyways, I just don't want a mayor who sides with terrorists. But she's not Islamophobic. But in these 3 short sentences, she literally called herself an Islamophobic person. Oh, and he wants to defund the police and he has no experience. I'll stop here. I think she should have just kept going. I mean, why stop there, Deborah? You're obviously not informed and not helping inform other people either. It's like, I read this and I could not believe my eyes. I could not believe this. Crazy. So she voted against him because he celebrated 9/11, which, how at 9 years old, even if he did, let's say theoretically he did, which I highly doubt it, based on his parents and how he is now and just that small amount, yes, of knowledge, I highly doubt it. And also at age 9, why would you even celebrate something like that? Like, it just, 0 sense. But let's say theoretically, let's say that he did. He was 9. What did you know at 9? What did you celebrate at 9 that you're like, whoa, gosh, that sucked? what are you talking about? Anyway, so let's move past that. But she says she's not Islamophobic, and yet she confuses 9/11 and October 7th. She confuses the people that did those things, as being the same. The only thing same about them was not even their religion per se, because in Palestine there are many Christians as well. But like, your Hamas might not be Christian though; it might be all Muslim. But you're confusing two very different groups of so-called terrorists, which I have a hard time saying that because we're not really using that word correctly, because we're not calling. I actually saw this post online talk about how about we start calling white men that are mass shooters as terrorists, because that's what they are, but we don't call them that. We call them as exceptions or whatever. But this has happened. I actually started and I forgot to finish the documentary on the guy in the 90s, the Oklahoma guy. I think he was Oklahoma. But yeah, I mean, that is literally terrorism. Let me get this right. Let me define it based on Google. Definition from Oxford Languages. Terrorism: the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. I would say not necessarily political aims. I would just say inflicting fear, because the thing with that is that you don't know when it's coming, and it's like made in such a way, like 9/11 was, and the Oklahoma thing was. It makes it in such a way where you feel like, and more so with mass shooting, like you don't know if you should go to Walmart because you don't know if that will happen. It makes you go into a bubble. It makes you afraid to vote a certain way, yes, but also to go to certain places, to live, to do certain things. That, because you never know what's coming, when it's coming, and where it's coming from. That is like terrorism. But yeah, I guess like you can also narrow it down to political aims. I feel like it's just more than that. So, yeah, but besides that, like you're meshing two people. The only thing that in her mind at least may be also true, that they have in common, 9/11 and October 7th, that it doesn't sound as good, 10/7. It sounds like a walkie-talkie code. Anyways, so the thing that she's alluding to is that they're both Muslim and terrorists. I just don't, but not like just any terrorist, right? Because it's a specific type. It's not the same as like the Oklahoma thing or all the other things, right? So take number one, that she is Islamophobic. I just don't want a mayor who sides with terrorists. Take number two, in case you didn't get it from 9/11 and October 7th being grouped together. Also, when has he sided with terrorists? You're calling him a socialist. How is he siding with terrorists? Literally, he's calling himself, and people call him, people are trying to make it derogatory that he's a socialist. How is he siding with terrorists? And then he wants to defund the police and has no experience and whatever. That's just like the cherries on top and whipped cream. And Andrew Cuomo also said that in the debate, something about the defunding of the police, where he added police for safety. I'm like, I don't think you want to say that to young people. Yeah, you're not hip. You get with the times. We don't see those things as the same thing. Safety and more police. It's not the same thing. Still, even though it's more, we're like kind of forgetting and stuff like that, but like it's still fresh enough, I would say. But yeah, what is he talking about? It's okay. So she both. Messings claim that Mamdani, who was 9 years old, sorry, I got out and going back in, who was 9 years old in September 2001, celebrated 9/11 and sides with terrorists, seemingly comes from a rap song he wrote in 2017, in which he praised the now defunct Islamic charity Holy Land Foundation for relief and development. The 5 leaders of that group were convicted in 2009 of providing material support to Hamas, which the U.S. recognizes as a foreign terrorist organization. Okay. A number of human rights organizations in 2022 called for the pardon of the 5 leaders on the basis that the money went to social programs ran by Palestinian charities and did not directly fund Hamas. And then, so this is okay. But I guess that's like fine. I'll give her that. She, before speaking on such a public platform, should know better, should do her research more. But this is the big thing that the big issue I had with Donna, Daily Dose of Donna, is that you're not factual and you're not protecting your people. You're just reacting and hating other people without any knowledge. Like, you're not educating yourself. And then you have this decently big platform. She's not as massive as Deborah Messing, although you can argue Deborah Messing is not as massive as Deborah Messing used to be. But you have this platform and you're not providing education. You're just reacting emotionally. You're just triggered and you're like, yes, I'm right because I'm triggered and I feel this. But you're not actually right. Anyways, but yeah, there and there's nuances, so you can argue whichever way, but I've heard this too, as far as like, yeah, but the reason Israel is like just wiping off everything in Palestine, in Gaza, what's left of Palestine, etc., is because what Hamas did was like take children and make them dig tunnels and this and that. And I'm not saying that's not true. I also have not done the research to say it's true or false. But like, I in taking that as true, what was said, I'm like, okay, I don't see that yielding the action Israel is taking. It's not the same thing. And also like just the convenient twist of how the reason Hamas did that and the reason that it's in power and all that stuff is because I saw this map. It was probably on Instagram. This map of how like it just got shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk as Israel just like took over the land, basically colonizing it. Honestly, although it's like such a small little entity, but a big voice, Israel. And so I'm not saying that they're great people and yay Hamas. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, when you say things like that, you need to be a little bit more honest and a little bit more factual and not just say the one side. Like, say both sides. Say why that is, if in fact is true, why that happened. And that those kids also still even in that sense don't deserve to not exist anymore. And all the other innocent civilians, just there is, in my eye, there is no reason to wipe out civilians for a few people, even if it's like bigger than like a handful of people, even if it's like quite a lot of people. There is no reason. I don't know if I go as far as like, oh, their agenda is to like completely wipe the whole culture out and the whole people and all that stuff, ethnic cleansing. I don't know if I would go that far. It seems very possible and what am I trying to say? What? Likely. Short circuiting brain. However, what I feel like is at least true is that now I forgot what I was saying. I wouldn't go as far as that. But my brain is like freaking out because it forgot live on air. I was like, oh, why did you forget, brain? And it's more focused on that now than on actually remember what I wanted to say. Darn it. Hold on. I'm really determined to like get my thought back. Oh, I forget. Anyways, yeah, but I don't know if I would go as far as like ethnic cleansing, but it's definitely. Oh, I remember. It's definitely based on hate for people. My eye is twitching. Oh my gosh. I think I'm like sleep deprived. Because that's what happens when I feel like I slept decent. I don't know. But yeah, it's based on hating other people, seeing other people as less than you are, as less people, as less humans than you are. So you have no problem in just like unaliving them, just like wiping them out. At the very least, that's what's happening, in my opinion, and from what I see. So I really don't feel like anyone from Donna to Deborah to all the other D names of women that are Jewish, I just think that either they're not educating themselves or they're not practicing what they preach. Because if you are against terrorism and against people dying and against like bad stuff, you should also be as much against the Israel government as against Hamas. And you're not. It's so messed up. It's so messed up. But yeah, I just felt like the things that she said, like I understand now she kind of had like a sort of reason for saying those things, but it's still Islamophobia what she said. The same people who did 9/11 did October 7th, and that yeah, he sides with terrorists and blah blah blah. So whatever. You agree? I dislike how politics are being run now. They look for dirt on each other's side more than promoting positive topics in their debates. Yeah. And I have to see more of him, but so far what I've seen is like not that, or at least not to like a huge effect. Let me pull him up. Do I have? Yeah. See, he's like really cool. I do want more of this. I don't know if this will get, copyright. I don't know what kind of music he uses or whatever. But yeah, I want more of this. Oh
New York Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted by a federal grand jury.
I mean, it's like
says New York is the greatest city on the globe. But what good is that if no one can afford to live here?
I mean, he still kind of points, oh, this candidate and this candidate says and all this stuff. But I don't know. I feel like I love the creativity of it, and like he still talks about things. I don't know, but I need to like look more as like what he does and how he does it. I don't know. Man, he's so young. But he looks old enough. He looks like my age. Like I would feel like, yeah, he looks politician-y age. Anyways, all right, so I think that is it for today. Yeah, oh my gosh, 1 o'clock. no more fireworks for a while. My mom's like, oh, they could be all night. I'm like, we're not in Europe. They don't do all night fireworks here, at least not where we are. So yeah, I thank you for everyone that was here at the beginning. Thank you for Maria for being here at the end of the live. And I knew that I was ready for no one showing up, and I know it was not a popular night for the lives, but I didn't really have anything better to do, so I was like, I'm gonna keep to my schedule, and I got really excited to talk about these two things, and just it felt also kind of right, you know, considering that it's 4th of July, to be a little bit more political and talk about those kinds of things, the human stuff, rather than just celebrity legal drama, which is also human stuff, but just a little bit less impactful kind of than these other two things. So, yeah. I don't know. Thank you for being here for everyone. And replay, if you've watched all the way to this end, definitely put a dolphin in the comments, please. Let me know that you watched all the way through. I don't think many people do that. So, but yeah, I'm just curious. And then have a wonderful weekend. It's been like it feels like a forever weekend this weekend. But yeah, cool. It feels really weird now to just like, okay, so bye, especially because Maria, like, you've been here just for a little bit, so I'm like, yeah. But okay, enjoy the replay. Let me know thoughts and stuff, and yeah, peace, love, and compassion, and empathy and critical thinking. That's the theme for today.